What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Classic Championship Series. We got some Week 9 action for you today as Team Death Realm takes on Iconic Severance. I'm Rychains, joined by Elsa the Queen. How you doing today?
I am doing pretty well. I'm excited to be here, Rye Chains. And as we get into this draft, we have two teams today who are both sharing the same record in terms of their match score, both sitting at 4-4. The winner of this match will advance into the quarterfinals of the CCS playoffs, and the loser will be done. It's just as simple as that. There's no, kind of crazy scenarios. So everything is on the line tonight for both of these teams, and I am excited if they can step up to the plate when it matters most.
Definitely gonna be a good one today here. As there are some, I believe there are e-subs coming in for
Yep.
Iconic, so
Yep.
that's where those missed bans are gonna be coming from. Vex and Volibear taken off the table as well for Team Death Realm. I think there should be one more, right?
I think there's two, you forfeit two bans for an E-sub. So yeah, so there's an E-sub coming in, for Iconic in the mid lane, replacing Tali, for tonight. It looks like, instead we do have Silver Smite, who's going to be coming in instead. So as far as I know, this is the very first time this player is actually competing with the team. So we'll see kind of how they can kind of mesh together. Tali is a player who has actually been in the CCS since last year when Iconics was formerly Lemon Citrus. They, had kind of have retained that core identity with Tali, with Expressive, who's their normal support, and then with Yoey in the top lane. So speaking of support, Iconic also does have sub in for support. It's not an e-sub, so maybe they're a little bit more familiar, but it will be Andromeda starting in the support role. So as we see these bans come through, it looks like it's just going to be a quick
Whoa.
Nautilus lock in for Team Death Realm. So grabbing some of that strong engage for themselves right away in the draft.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. I mean, I think that's not something you see a lot of the times, just ripping Nautilus first pick. But nonetheless, I do like this champ a lot. Thresh is banned away by Iconic, so one hook champ is taken away. Let's take the other one, and Nautilus is going to be the pickup here. On the other side, though, for Iconic, Karma being the hover so far, and this is this pick is kind of hard, honestly, because if you get hooked, you're kind of dead. But you do have a good poke. You do have some sustain with the shield and move speed. So you kind of run around in circles, especially paired up with the Hecarim. The Karma and Hecarim combination is very, very strong, and that can even be taken mid lane.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with what you just said, which is that there's a chance that this is a flex. Even if Iconic doesn't necessarily plan to flex it into the mid lane, it at least leaves Team Death Realm guessing a little bit, maybe making them a little bit more wary to take a mid lane pick in the second rotation here. But as Team Death Realm waiting to lock something in, I do want to talk about. It looks like it might be the Jinx for Farachi or not for Farachi, sorry, for Rusher. I do want to talk about the Hecarim, because for Iconic Severance, Hunter Wolfsteal has been just an incredible jungler. He's been really the leader of this team in terms of the pace of the game, as well as kind of where the resources tend to go. And Hecarim getting a little bit nerfed down recently, but I think if you want a jungler that does have kind of some of that scaling ability, some of that ability to benefit from getting a little bit extra gold, getting those items in quicker, it's going to be Hecarim in this meta. So that is his most played champion in solo queue, and he will find comfort on that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to mention here, just looking at this Jinx pick, Jinx is actually the most picked champion in the CCS right now. It's been picked in 37 games, which kind of makes sense. I mean, this champ has been topping the meta for the entire season. It does have a negative win rate, though, so we'll see if that comes into play here, or if it can get evened out by Rusher. But into the second ban phase we go. Akali and Victor taken off the table. And we do see that the jungler, or at least what we think is the jungler for TDR, has been picked up in this Trundle. What do you think about Trundle into Hecarim?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Trundle into Hecarim, I think Trundle has a little bit stronger in the early game, especially when it comes to ganking, in particular, not as much as the clear. But definitely has a little bit of the ganking advantage, will sort of be able to set up around these scuttle crab sort of situations. But with the Ahri locked in, kind of, it means that Karma will be going to support. So Team Death Realm is going to have to blind pick a top laner here. I wanted to bring up also about the Trundle in particular. I like that Team Death Realm picked it up because it is a pretty big takeaway from Iconic Severance as well. Yowie in the top lane has a lot of games on Trundle, and on the other side, Team Death Realm tends to play a lot of tanks in the top lane, and Trundle obviously hard carrying a lot of those champions. So with Ornn locked in here alongside Silas, we'll see what Iconic Severance has to do or has to say. Set being hovered right now. I was also going to mention Fiora as I think one of the top played champions here for the top for Yowie also, obviously very good at taking down those tanks too, but Mordekaiser would be a choice. This is kind of a staple champion that we've seen throughout really both splits of the CCS, just really does well in that 1-for-1, and I'm sure is not a fun time for that Ornn, who is probably just going to look back to or look to sit back and scale until later in the game when he can get that Ornn horn off and help his team in the fights.
Yeah, so now that we see all the rosters kind of being, picked up and finished out for these teams here, it is interesting to look at the specific matchups. You already talked a little bit about the top lane matchup, but I do want to talk about this mid lane matchup here, the Silas versus Ari. And I know I literally played this matchup last night. It is so painful for the Ari if you let Silas get any sort of lead at all, because he's just gonna run you down and there's really nothing you can do about it. So it's gonna be on Silver Smite, in this tough matchup, coming in as the E sub. You know what I mean? I'm very interested to see what this player can do. Um, on this, in this lane at least. I mean, I know that roams are going to be very crucial. And just looking on the other side, looking at what Silas can actually take from Iconic Severance in the
Mhm.
ultimates. Onslaught of Shadows, super good to take here. And even, Spirit Rush from Aria is very good. And then if you want to isolate some, like one target, I mean, if you can isolate Aphelios in the Death Realm, it's an easy one. It's an easy 1-for-0, easy pick for the Silas. So definitely gonna look out to see as well what Matt can do with these Silas ultimates, because that's gonna be a big factor in this game.
Yeah, it certainly will. And for Silas, as you talked about, can get into sort of a difficult matchup with Ari, and with those champions that he can take their ultimate and often use it just as well as them, if not even better. We think about in some of these matchups, for Silas, getting those 3 dashes on top of the dash he already has there with his E, as well as then the gap close with the chains connecting, just means that you're always going to be one movement ability ahead of the Ari in this game. So for Matt as kind of the captain, as the leader of this Team Death Realm squad, overall, Team Death Realm, they came into this split as a team that we thought of as being a really high, being really competitive in this Thursday conference. A lot of people put them as possibly the second best team, maybe the third best team. I know that Goldfish thought very heavily of them. They were able to take a game off Goldfish, one of only 2 teams to do so. This is the last stop for Team Death Realm. If they're not able to get the win tonight, they are done. Their season is over. And if there's one thing that we do know about Iconic Severance, you can never count them out. Last week against Horizon Gaming, I don't think anybody picked them to be the winner of that game, but they did end up drawing it out to 3 and end up taking it home, which is something that Iconic is also really, really known for, is pushing things to 3 games, kind of remaining that sort of pesky team that is not necessarily one of the best teams in the league, but they are a team that's always going to show up to play, and they're always going to remain competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is gonna be a banger here. And I believe we actually casted Iconic last year in week 9. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is. Yeah. So last year we saw last year we saw Iconic. It was Lemon Citrus then losing to Limitless in week 9. So it's a little bit of a tradition. I was saying in the Discord for me and Rye Chains to be casting this one. The difference though is last year they were able to lose 0-2 and actually ended up still locking in a playoff spot in that week 9. But as I already mentioned, it has to be a win tonight. Doesn't matter if it's 2-0 or 2-1, but they do have to grab that victory if they want to have a chance to stay alive in CCS Thursday. And I know that everybody's excited for the playoffs. Another thing for CCS is if you do make the playoffs, these are teams that we would happily welcome back the next split. So not necessarily fighting for a spot in the CCS, but kind of fighting for that guarantee for Iconic Severance. I'm sure they would like to return for a third split and trying to defend the right to do so in this match tonight. And nothing weird going on in the champion select or anything. Pretty straightforward for these picks. And honestly, it's a little bit of a throwback to earlier in the season, specifically with the Jinx and Aphelios. Both teams have that fallback to scale up, get 2 to 3 items on these hyper carry bottom lane champions, and they'll never be out of the game, as long as they can continue pumping resources into the Jinx or into the Aphelios on the side of Iconic.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams are very, very hyper-scaling AD carries. I talked about how Jinx is the most picked champion in the CCS this season. Just looking at in the jungle role as well, I mean, Hecarim and Trundle are tied for third and fourth, so
Right.
a lot of high priority picks in this game. I believe that one of them has a much higher win rate than the other. Hold on, I have to find it. Yeah, so Trundle 61% win rate. Hecarim is 73% win rate. So if the stats don't lie, that means that Hecarim is going to have the advantage in this matchup. But either way, we are done. We are now through with this in-client pick and ban. But before we throw it to a break, I do want to shout out our sponsor, ProComps. ProComps is the first of its kind drafting tool aimed for competitive and solo queue play. ProComps allows users live feedback and analysis on drafting, giving them recommendations on picks, notes on matchups, and analysis on the enemy team's win cons. We've been kind of doing that a little bit here. So if you want us in your champion select in your solo queue, you gotta get it going. These features allow the user to gain an edge on their opponent and improve their drafting skills. It sounds good, but it sounds better if you use the code CCS25. We're going to get you 25% off your first 6 months. Go check out ProComps, see what they got to offer you, and go get some LP. We're going to be back in a few minutes to be on to the riff for game number 1 between Iconic Severance and Team Death Realm. Don't go anywhere.
Everybody panic! Hold on. I'm about to say something really cool. 3, 41, 9, and lift off! No one dies screaming without me. I feel like I forgot to shoot something. You're starting to bore me. She's such a loser, always ready to cry. Ah, come on. What's the worst that could happen?
And we are on to the rift for game number 1 between Team Death Realm and Iconic Severance. On the red side for Iconic Severance, Yobi on the Mordekaiser in the top lane, Hunter Wolfsteel on Hecarim in the jungle, Silver Smite on Ari in the mid lane, Farachi and Andromeda rounding out the bottom lane with the Aphelios and the Karma, and a 5-man invade coming through top is going to burn the flash off of Yowie.
They're still going for it. They're going to walk over a ward, though, so this will be known. It's going to be... I don't know if Iconic will try to go aggressive, but it looks like they are just going to back off. And, you know, level 1 against Nautilus, really, really strong champion. We already saw the way that Yowie was just, you know, not going to take that not going to take that hook, just flash away. Is traded with the Nautilus as well, but overall, I think that's actually a huge trade for the side of benefiting the side of TDR, because if you're bipolar, you now know that that immobile Mordekaiser doesn't have flash anymore, and even though Nemesis on the Ornn, not necessarily the biggest damage dealer, early on in these fights, they're going to be able to, you know, scrap it up, and Nemesis is going to be able to do a lot of damage. So, kind of could dictate some of the jungle pathing early on. It will be bipolar starting in the top lane, and Hunter Wolfsteel going to start on the same side of the map with his own red buff, but will be spotted out in the ward, and did see it though, so he knows he's spotted out. So interested to see where both junglers want to take things after this. And we'll just have to wait and see. And, you know, Rychins, you had touched a lot on, as we do see some pings coming down into the top lane. You did touch a lot on this Ahri versus Sylas matchup, and, you know, I wanted to point out that for me, Ahri in this current meta, although top lane, I don't know if they're ever going to take us there. Looks like Mordekaiser's safe. I was going to say, Ahri in this current meta really functions as more of a pick champion, in my opinion, than she used to. So with that comes the necessity of roaming around the map, starting to make those plays happen for your team. And if you've never played with a group of players before, it can make it a lot more difficult to do that. So we'll have to see if Silver Smite can make those roams happen, kind of set up Hunter Wolfsteel in the jungle, because that will be one of their big win conditions, as I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and you know, while you were talking about that, you mentioned this the gank up into the top lane. The blue into top lane gank is something of legend. Yep. You know, you don't see that too much, especially from the Trundle, but either way, you know, unsuccessful. And that's going to put Trundle very far behind. You can see now that Hunter Wolfsteel is doubling the camps here. And especially on the Hecarim, who can clear so quickly. It's definitely a scary thought. That means it's going to be bot first. Little trades going back and forth in this top lane, but nothing too notable yet, as Bipolar finally makes their way down into this bottom side. And we're getting a fight over this blue buff here, as Mr. Potato and Rusher want some action. But it looks like Hunter Wolfsteal is going to be able to take that without a problem.
Yeah, he will be able to take it, but it does force not only Andromeda to come over, but also Silver Smite as well. So is going to end up leading to, it looks like maybe a couple of CS difference here in the mid lane for Matt. Even if he's going even, honestly, you know, it's not like Silas's early game is horrible, but just the nature of the melee versus ranged matchup, as we got a gank.
Hunter Wolfsteal on this mid lane onto Matt. We go as the flash. Charm connects, and Matt's gonna go down. First blood over to Silver Smite.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I questioned whether or not Silver Smite would be able to make these picks happen alongside Hunter Wolfsteal. So far, so good, but Bipolar has something to say about it.
Bipolar looking for Hunter. Yeah, I don't know. I think they could have stuck in on that, but Matt wants some revenge onto Silver Smite. Chains are gonna go wide, but now Mr. Potate is caught in the mid lane. Hunter Wolfsteal is there as well, and we're gonna get a big fight down in this bottom side river as Silver Smite is in the middle of 4 members. We will go down as Bipolar is gonna find a kill back. The chain's not gonna land in the bottom lane for Iconic. Severance has to run for the hills, looking for the hook. Ooh, nice pillar. Will force out the flash and the heal from the bottom lane of Iconic as they're continuing chasing, but looks like they're not gonna be able to find anything else.
Yeah, and again, just the strong pick potential that this Nautilus has. Burned the level 1 flash from Mordekaiser, which is going to be back up soon, but then roaming into the enemy jungler, trying to slow down Hunter Wolfsteal, roaming into the river along with Rusher, and ending up getting this kill on Silver Smite, who took kind of an awkward path in order to get to that engagement in the first place. So speaking of some ganks that are a little bit unexpected, it looks like we have Ornn coming into the mid lane now.
Oh my gosh, Silver Smite under threat. Will find the knockup though from that Ornn pillar, but looks like nothing else will come from that play. But look at Bipolar in his bottom lane. The flash root is going to find the mark, the hook as well, and Farachi has to flash away to safety, but now Andromeda is under attack. No flashes available as Bipolar will get rooted up. We'll see if there's any more CC as the root comes through again from Nautilus, and Mr. Potate is going to bring down the anchor and find the credit for that kill.
Yeah, they did. Nice kill by Mr. Potato is the one who actually picks up the credit, but Bipolar pathing down into that bot side, getting the Jinx ahead is going to be a big deal, especially again, you know, I talked about the range v melee matchup in the mid lane. We also have that for the support role. Again, the melee being on the side of Team Death Realm, so normally the Karma should have more agency in that lane, but given the fact that we did see that gank down there, that is going to be setting them up for a little bit of an earlier, easier early lane phase, and it will be the Dragon also going down as a result of that gank, with the bot lane pressure being picked up from Team Death.
And this is exactly what you want to see from Trundle jungle, you know, in this early game. 100% kill participation, making their way around the maps, or around the map rather. Yeah, you know, the top lane gank didn't work out, but and also the farm is very heavy in one direction. But either way, just making proactive plays. And now into mid lane we go here as Matt's gonna get charmed up, takes the onslaught of shadows, but it doesn't matter because Hunter has one of their own, and that's gonna be another kill going over to Iconic and Hunter Wolfsteal.
Yeah, Hunter Wolfsteal picking up the kill there, and you know, you just had talked about Rychains, how there is this huge gap in farm right now actually being doubled, is Bipolar by Hunter Wolfsteal. So Hunter Wolfsteal on this Hecarim will continue to scale up, has gone for the boots, Ionian Boots of Lucidity first, and we'll have to see what he decides to go with as the next item, but definitely happy to be able to pick up that farm and kind of get through this early game very smoothly, because as we transition into the later stages, it's particularly for Rusher on the Jinx, Hecarim just becomes an absolute menace, just being able to use that onslaught of shadows right under your face, you get feared, and it just kind of seems like you're one shot before you're really able to do much of anything. So that's going to be kind of where I'm looking for Hunter Wolfsteal to have an impact here, kind of taking Rusher out of the game, if it's not Joey doing so.
X Flash from Mr. Potato does find the hook, but we'll see it. This might get turned around on them as Hunter Wolfsteal is here. Onslaught of Shadows is available and will be used out. Mr. Potato's going to be feared back into the team in the middle of 3, and this should be another kill going over. Hunter is going to grab the credit for that one, as you would have liked to see that go over to Farachi, but nonetheless, it is on an impactful, you know, champion in the Hecarim.
Yeah, would have liked to see it go over to the Aphelios, but either way, a kill is a kill, and they do pick that up. I personally think that maybe, it's hard, especially when you're playing an immobile champion like Jinx. But I feel like if Rusher had stepped up a little bit more, trying to get a few more auto attacks off, they possibly could have traded a kill back. But as it stands, did not want to die, which makes sense. So it is going to be one going back the other direction for Iconic. And so checking in on the gold, though, Iconic is up about 1.4k right now, which, for only 9 minutes into the game, not too shabby, but
Farachi now in trouble here in 1v3, trying to find a kill onto Rusher, but will not have the damage, and Mr. Potate's gonna find the second kill of the game for himself.
80 carries do not get kills in this game, as Rusher and Farachi have both been denied throughout the game, picking up gold from that. So Mr. Potato, though, is going to be really strong on this Nautilus, as Matt just getting ganked again, this time finally having the opportunity to utilize his flash. The first time just seemed like he kind of thought he was dead already, and then second time tried to use the Onslaught of Shadows, but third time's the charm. Is able to flash out and does have the Spirit Rush stolen away, so we'll have to see if he decides to use that, as Mr. Potato hook will go wide, and Silver Smite coming in as an E-sub. There's a lot of game left to play so far, but this is a pretty good start for this player, considering their lack of experience with this particular team, and I think you're pretty happy with it right now if you're Iconic.
Absolutely, and we'll see what happens in this little 2v2 going on here. Oh, it's a 3v3 now as Mr. Potato comes in. Silver Smite is under threat as the flash over, and Matt will get the kill. Mr. Potato wanted it, but now Hunter will steal going after Matt in the on the other side of the fight. Yoey versus Mr. Potato. Nautilus versus Mordekaiser's not the best for the Nautilus here, but Yoey's going to come out in the middle of 3 on the other side. Hunter Wolfsteal is going to find the killing spree onto Matt, as Bipolar is going to go down. Ornhorn is called up, and Hunter Wolfsteal is in trouble. Now going to get knocked up yet again, trying to heal it through, but the Ornn is too much. Going to find the shutdown there, and now sit as 2-0.
And the shutdown going over to Nemesis on the Ornn. So once again, it's not one of the carries getting the kills, but personally, I've been actually playing a lot more top lane recently, been playing a lot of Ornn, and I think the champion is actually really strong right now. Of course, it's always going to bring that absolute top tier long range team fight engage, but even beyond that, I think actually in lane right now, it's pretty powerful. I think in general, tanks are coming back a little bit, so happy to see Nemesis pick this one up in this particular match. And actually that money going over to the Ornn, I think is kind of important, because being able to keep up in lane against the Mordekaiser is not something that Ornn is necessarily supposed to be able to do eventually. So as long as he can do that, they're in a good spot.
Hunter and Andromeda looking for some action here as Bipolar is taking very, very low. Matt trying to find the mark, but the charm lands from Silver Smite, and Bipolar goes down. Matt's the next under siege, as the Moonlight Vigil will find the kills there, and Mr. Potato now could be in trouble. Gonna get run down as the traps are placed down. Oh, a nice charm comes through from Silver Smite again, and Mr. Potato's gonna go down. Farachi finding 2 kills in this fight, and over the back, Hunter Wolfsteal is gonna find another one onto Rusher, and it is all Iconic in this play.
All Iconic, absolutely picking up that fight, and Matt has had a really difficult game so far on the Silas. Does have 4 deaths just 12 minutes into the game, and in the champion select, I touched on the fact that this was the time for Matt to kind of step up. We have these sort of high expectations for him as a player and for TDR really as a whole, and those are certainly not being met so far in this match. So gonna have to turn things around a little bit, but as we had mentioned, it's definitely not at all lost for TDR. Not that huge of a gold lead, is still sitting under 3k here at about 12.5 minutes into the game. And crucially for Team Deathrealm, they have the scaling Jinx, Silas scaling pretty well also, and then, Ornn not scaling with the damage, but will kind of become this unstoppable, kind of unkillable force for Team Deathrealm, for the majority of the champions on the enemy team that aren't really as good at cutting through tanks. Definitely Aphelios can do so, but the rest of the champions not so much. So still a lot of scaling that could come through here from Team Deathrealm, but probably for them wanting to slow down this game a little bit and just kind of find some way to keep Matt safe. because so far they just haven't been able to do that, and Hunter Wolfsteal, aside from the one death, has really had his way during this game.
I'm wondering if we're going to see LDR second come through from Farachi. I know it's pretty common in a lot of affiliate games to go to LDR second, but it looked really good in this game, especially when you're looking at Ornn, you know, Silas, and Trundle on the top half of the other team. LDR is going to feel very, very nice in this game, so I do expect Farachi to go for that at some point, if not second. But it does have that Kraken Slayer completed. Mythics are coming online for a lot of the members of Iconic. Only Nemesis for TDR does have that Sunfire completed. But yeah, there you go. The fourth Mythic being picked up there by Iconic. And you got to imagine that the fights are going to be all them, at least for a little bit, just based on this item advantage.
Yeah, it's you know, it's definitely fairly substantial, which is why I said I think for TDR, you need to be willing to maybe just give up a little bit more here than you normally would, and just farm a little bit for later in the game, just to stem the bleeding, I guess, because the further that you fall behind in the short term, it's just going to get harder and harder. So we'll have to see if they can kind of pull that off, because Hunter Wolfsteal playing at a really high tempo here. But speaking of items,
could be in trouble as Onslaught Shot's going to find two. Going to get taken away by Matt as 1 HP will go down to Bipolar. Now Silver Smite in a rough spot. Death Charge going to have to flash over the wall to safety, but Potato is going after him with a Flash Ignite as well. And look at everyone is down here. All 5 members for TDR as Silver Smite's going to fall. Now it's Andromeda and Farachi versus the world. Andromeda's going to get hooked up, and that's going to be a dead Karma. Give it over to Rusher for the first kill of the game on this Jinx. Farachi is under threat as well, as the pillar is going to buy some time, try and get it, but the Moonlight Visual off the top will find the kill back for Farachi, but Rusher will go under the tower and secure that shutdown on the Jinx, and it is a 3-for-1 in favor of TDR.
And I think this is something that, you know, as Yowie does take down this first turret, which is important to note because that does swing the gold, you know, back to about a 2K advantage. But something that I think we're going to see emerge as a pattern in this game is the ability that TDR has with their team composition to force engagements and force fights versus what Iconic has brought to the table. You know, Hecarim definitely can dive into the backline, kind of get some of that engage off, but I think ideally he's sort of the secondary engage, but there's not really anyone else here. You know, Silver Smite does have the charm, but not going to be a frontliner at all. Mordekaiser does get pretty tanky, but, you know, again, more of sort of a split push or kind of side lane type champion than a team fight champion. So that's going to be an advantage that TDR will find for themselves, is that they can force these fights to happen when they have the margins in their favor, and that's exactly what we saw in that bot lane river. And Mr. Potato, you know, has had a couple of deaths so far this game, but you live by the Nautilus and you die by the Nautilus. This time they live and they pick up a lot of gold.
Yeah, and with that, they're going to convert, Iconic is going to convert that over into a Rift Herald. So still does have that 2,000 gold advantage, and with this dragon spawning in about 25 seconds, it's going to be the Ocean Soul. Ocean's bringing life, and now Matt looking at Silver Smite, but it's too many members here, and now everyone is coming all of a sudden, as now Hunter Wolf still has to run for the hills as Matt with the Spirit Rush going in. Onslaught Shadow is going to find the Fear onto 2 as the Ornhorn is called. Does it find the knockouts onto anyone? Yes, it finds 1 as Silver Smite is in trouble. Now the Depth Charge is going to knock them up eventually, and they should go down, I would imagine, here as the lock gets popped, and now Yowie could be in trouble as the Dreadzon's going to find the mark. Christopher Tate taking a lot of damage off the back of the Moonlight Bitch is going to hit 4 members. Rusher's taking so low, but will get excited and run for the hills, as it is a 2-for-1 so far. No, 1-for-0 so far. Or, no, 2-for-1, sorry. So Smite looking for the turn, not going to find it, as Andromeda is throwing Mantra Qs into the back of TDR as they run away. Rift Herald was spawned up in that mid lane, gonna find the first tower. So that's gonna be some more gold going over as the root comes through onto Matt. Farachi has to be careful, does have the shields there from Andromeda.
They are gonna push in here, so it's interesting. You know, it looks like they are gonna try to go for the finish. It's pretty low. Matt is feeling kind of greedy here, and you know, when that fight started out, I really thought that it was Matt just creating again, because it kind of looked like he was going for that pure one-on-one against Silver Smite. With Hunter Wolfsteel coming in, things did not look very good, but he definitely knew what he was doing. He knew he had the rest of the team in his back pocket coming down the river, and they do end up taking 2 for 1 in the fight, but with the mid lane turret going down as well, yes, there's still a lot of standing gold up on the map for Team Deathrealm in those outer turrets, but even just the map control that it affords Iconic, taking down that mid lane turret, allowing you to push your vision into the enemy jungle a little bit more, and we've already seen that Hunter Wolfsteel has been a big fan of that, not afraid to engage into Bipolar's jungle, so I'm excited to see how they can take advantage of the vision in particular in order to push the advantages that they've built up so far. But looking at the kills, it is 12-12, pretty even in that regard, and it's certainly anyone's game.
Yeah, and just to add on to the point of the vision, you know, you have a champion like Ari who's so effective at getting picks, and the vision is so crucial, you know what I mean? If Rusher walks up randomly and catches a charm to the face, or even Matt, you know, that is a lot. That's a big turn for Iconic, and it's going to get them a lot off of that play, you know, killing one of these carries. For the time being, though, Herald is going to spawn in about 40, or no, Baron is going to spawn in about 40 seconds, rather. And you can see a lot of resources in the top lane for Iconic, but Mr. Pate going in. Onslaught Shao is going to find the fear onto 2 as Matt takes it away. One for themselves, as Silver Smite could be in trouble. Hunter Wolfsteel taken dangerously low and will go down as Russia goes on kill spree. It is time to get excited. Andromeda is going to go down as well as the Oran Horn is called. Farachi hit with the zap, will get slowed up, and this looks like a dead Aphelios, as well as Rusher goes on a rampage, and the gold is back to even.
I wonder if they're going to even try to do Baron on spawn here. It is coming up right now. Matt is low in the mid lane, does have teleport available though, so theoretically could go back and then come to help the team. With the Scuttle Crab being taken by Iconic Severance, they do know that this is going on, but 3 members dead, Andromeda just running out of the base, and Yoey could have gone back to maybe try to do something, but instead I think that in this situation you do cut your losses, and it's the right call for the Mordekaiser to sit down in the bottom lane. Not sure if he'll get that turned or not. Looks like it's going to be close, but even if he doesn't get it, does set him up for kind of the next time, and it looks like I think he will take it down. So 20-minute Baron here being claimed by Team Deathrealm. Definitely the earliest Baron I have seen in the CCS, probably ever, because I mean, I don't know about the finish time, but they started it exactly when you could. So definitely just running with their advantages when they get them here, our TDR.
Ooh. Nemesis could be in trouble here as we'll find the tower, but now Farachi is under attack, gonna get knocked up. We'll see if Nemesis has the damage. Doesn't look like it though, as Farachi and Hunter Wolfsteel are doing enough to take him down, and that's gonna be a 450 gold shutdown going into Farachi's pockets. I do want to mention is building that Last Whisper and the cloak, so going for that LDR as mid lane tower will fall in favor of TDR. We'll see if they opt for a fight. This could be something here, as Silver Smite and Hunter Wolfsteel are caught in trouble. Depthstar is going to force Silver Smite to go golden as the flash away will dodge the hook.
Yeah, that's a good flash. You know, will be the stopwatch blown, which is a pretty big cooldown, but also taking away the ultimate from Mr. Potate, so I'm glad to get that one out. Not sure if they'll be able to do anything in the short term, but you were talking about Farachi also. You know, for Iconic, this has been one of their biggest carry players, is also just in general as a player a big fan of these type of champions, of these hyper carry champions. I believe Jinx is the #1, but Aphelios definitely up there as well. And you know, looking at the sort of average kill share here for the team, it is the highest for Farachi. Yes, this lineup is a little bit different, but Farachi tends to be the one picking up those kill credits. We saw some of them being taken away from him a little bit earlier in the game, but has gotten 4 so far. Does have 2 items completed in the Kraken Slayer, and then just as you guessed it right, Chains the Lord Dominic's regards. Jinx with 2 items is on the other side, so it could kind of start to come down to the battle of Rusher versus Farachi, or at the very least, which team can pick off their opponent's AD carry first in these team fights that have looked a little bit chaotic early on.
Yeah, they've definitely looked chaotic here, Dragon spawning in 20 seconds, but I do want to mention, though, it does seem like there's a little bit more peel for TDR. You have the Trundle Pillar, you have, you know, Ornn, you have Nautilus, right, who are a very effective lockdown. And so, you know, I think I do like Rusher's situation better. Mr. Potato could be in trouble as the depth charge is going to find the knockups onto one. Into the death room we go. As Mr. Potato's going to flash forward. Matt going in into 4 members. Going to have to go golden for the time being as Rusher is engaged on by Hunter Wolfsteel. But just so much peel. Look at that here as Hunter Wolfsteel can't get anything done. And Bipolar goes on a rampage. Silver Smite now in trouble. Will dodge away from the chains from Matt. But either way, you know, it's 1 for 1 down. But the Super Mega Death Rocket from downtown is going to find the kill there as... Oh my gosh, Bipolar gets destroyed as now Yoey gets pulled in. Rusher is taking so low, 1 HP. Can't find the damage onto Yoey, but look at this now. Andromeda is getting chased down by Nemesis and Matt. Will have to burn the flash away. Will the chains connect? No. As it is 2 for 2 immediately in this bot side. River, Mr. Potato is back and running to the play. But either way, this dragon should be TDR's.
Yeah, it should go to TDR. Hunter Wolfsteel just coming, just spawning right now, so I don't think they're going to make it there in time to contest the smite, but they very well might make it to try to make some kind of fight happen off the back end of it. Matt can dash over the wall, but Nemesis not able to, and it looks like they are going to route elsewhere. They do have to sweep through the jungle just to make sure that they're not being caught out in some sort of way, but here's Hunter Wolfsteel.
Oh my gosh, he's looking for him, but I don't think there's anything to find here. I mean, Onslaught Shadows is available. I don't think you want to dive that deep, especially just because all the TDR members are respawning right now. So either way, gold is back to equalize here. 2 dragons to 2, but TDR does have the kill lead by 3. Very close game.
Absolutely. So yeah, it is going to be the 3 kill lead, but more importantly, only 200 gold, maybe even just about 100 gold. It looks like separating these 2 teams. And Farachi
gonna get caught out in the top lane. River trying to find the Scuttle Crab, as now we're gonna get a fight ensue afterwards. Ornhorn gonna go a bit wide, but nonetheless, the 80 carry for Iconic is dead, and that's gonna give some openings to TDR. Andromeda is under attack, but will be able to run away. There's nothing to push.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's nothing to push here, so
yeah,
they don't have the waves for a little bit. They're gonna clear out the wave, but they can't really do much till the waves come.
It's exactly what I was gonna say too. Like, you know, they're I think you're kind of I mean, you know, now they have the wave up to this turret, but overall, I think TDR is a little bit limited. They have used the Ornhorn. That one's not, you know, only not halfway past the cooldown, but Mr. Potate's still going in.
Oh, a 3-man Everfrost. Charm's going to come through. Depth charge on to Silver Smite. Has to run away, but Hunter Wolfsteel is going to go golden in the backside. But watch Rusher just absolutely destroying everyone on Iconic. Severance free hitting in the back lines as Yoey's going to come out of that death realm. Finally, and just so much damage coming out from this Jinx, who has that evolved Kraken Slayer, does have the Runons and the boots completed, and QSS just in case Yoey decides to ult him.
Yeah, and you know, you called it out exactly right, Chains, but Rusher just remaining completely untouched on the backline during that team fight. And for the side of Team Death Realm, you know, again, this peel that they do have in place, having the Nautilus, having the Ornn, which, yes, they can be really good for engage. They can also be really good for preventing enemy champions from getting onto your carries. So in the fight before we saw Farachi getting picked, it was kind of what we said of that 80 carry versus 80 carry sort of setup. But both of them did end up going down just because they are pretty easy to pick off in general. And, you know, going back to this Silas with Matt, who did fall pretty far behind early on in the game, getting ganked multiple times by Hunter Wolfsteel, but the healing that is coming through for the Silas in particular is just a little bit ridiculous at this point in the game. I think from the Kingslayer gets most of that healing back. So wanting to start seeing some grievous wounds come through. We do see the Oblivion Orb built up on the Ahri, as well as, I guess, Bramble Vest in the top lane too. So there are some grievous wounds here. Wouldn't be surprised to see Farachi pick up one of those items next. Looks like right now he could either be going for Infinity Edge or maybe Bloodthirster. Those are kind of the two things that jump to mind with the BF sword and the crit cloak in the inventory.
I think it's funny how 4 members of TDR have the Merc Treads. Just do not want to deal with any of that magic damage or CC, but they're starting a Baron again here. Smite is all the way on the other side of the map. Hunter Wolfsteel does have the ultimate and the Blast Cone to get in with the Smite. Oh my gosh, Yoey is getting run in, but wait, he got a Bipolar into the Death Realm, and it's a free Smite for Hunter Wolfsteel. The Baron's going to go over to Iconic. on the other side of the fight. Matt's gonna go golden as the rest of the team is trying to get away with the heist. Yoi's gonna go down though as it goes over to Bipolar, but oh my gosh, Matt goes down, cannot find the kills there as Farachi will find the shutdown now. Nemesis is going in, and the turnaround, a beautiful play coming through from Iconic and Yoi, mostly to just isolate Bipolar and give Hunter Wolfsteel a free smite.
Yeah, and this is why you don't coin flip Barons even when you're ahead. When the enemy jungler is still alive, it's just something that we don't see very often. So
Rusher and Bipolar are going in, but Bipolar gets destroyed. Now Nemesis is here, and you do have a very strong Jinx with the Super Mega Death Rock. It's not gonna find Silver Smite on the backside. Yeah, I mean, they just did not need to do that.
yeah, I mean, it's one thing if the opposing jungler, their only way of getting over the wall is either flash or the blast cone, but for Hecarim, whenever the ultimate is available with the Onslaught of Shadows, he's always going to be able to get over there. And, you know, we saw Nemesis trying to get the knockup on him on Ornn, which he did. We saw Mr. Potate using the ultimate, I believe, as well, but it just doesn't matter because they aren't able to burst the Baron during the time that they gave it, that they got the CC onto Hunter Wolfsteel. So now with this dragon going down, it will be the third drag. Is that actually correct? We actually had 5 dragons already?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I can't even believe that. Yeah, so we have 5 dragons so far, so it will be Soul Point on top of this Baron buff currently, which, you know, the Baron buff itself isn't going to get too much for Iconic, but even just the denial of it away from TDR, we saw what TDR wanted to do with that push up into the top lane. Imagine if they actually had Baron minions, it might have worked out. So things are starting to look a little bit more up.
Look at the TP.
But Nemesis wants to change that.
Blaze coming through, depth charge, gonna force the flash out of Farachi, and now he could be in trouble. His teleport coming in, also the shot's gonna find a 4-man fear, but Farachi is down, shutdown coming through, Rusher free hitting again, as Matt does have that onslaught of shadows, but either way, Yoi's gonna come out of the death realm pretty soon here, but he's gonna be in the middle of 3 members. Matt's gonna find Andromeda on the backside, and it is a disaster for Iconic. Severance 5-for-0, clean ace for TDR.
5-for-0, and once again, it's Rusher in the back line, free hitting. I feel like that's a term that is overused in the game of League of Legends because so much of playing the position of AD carry is those micro movements, dodging all those skill shots, but in this case, I think it's the perfect thing to describe it because Rusher just feels absolutely no threat whatsoever. He can step forward, he's not afraid of Mordekaiser coming out of the death realm at all, just willing to basically be running on top of his head, and with a Jinx in the game, it's going to be 2 Nexus turrets going down, and they just want it to be done now.
The Nexus falls, and TDR takes game 1 off of a huge performance by Rusher and Bipolar.
Yeah, Rusher and Bipolar coming through for this team. Matt was kind of the player that I wanted to look at entering the game, but turned out that, I mean, Matt definitely had an impact, don't get me wrong, but just kind of more so, I would say his biggest impact was soaking some of that early game pressure from Hunter Wolfsteel, who with 8 deaths, but I think that was a little bit of a symptom of what we talked about with the lack of engage coming from Iconic. Really, Hunter Wolfsteel was their only method to start out fights, so he did use that Onslaught of Shadows usually to try to get into the backline, try to pick up some CC onto Rusher, but wasn't enough with him kind of being the only one able to do that. And at the end of the day, it is Iconic going down in a game that looked like they were keeping it close, but TDR, once they got a hold of it in that last fight, once they finally got that really definitive team fight they needed, they wouldn't let go. They just ran it down, and in a good way, I guess they ran it down. And it was nice to see how kind of definitive they were in their movements there at the end. So we like to see that from teams going into playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rusher playing very, very well. You know, Iconic just couldn't get onto him. There was just too much peel from the TDR lineup, and Rusher able to take advantage of that and just pump out massive damage there. TDR gonna take game 1. We're gonna take a short break, but we'll come back in a few minutes to see if TDR can take it in 2-0 fashion, and if history does repeat itself, or if Iconic can push this to a game 3. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back for the draft of game number 2 between Iconic Severance and Team Death Realm. The draft started, so we are going to be getting into it here. Just a reminder, Iconic is going to lose 2 bans due to their E-sub. But I want to talk about that last game a little bit here. Silver Smite coming in and looked pretty good at E-sub for Iconic, but nonetheless, TDR was just too much.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of unfortunate because even though there was that strong early game from the combination of Hunter Wolfsteal as well as Silver there, they weren't able to translate it into anything later. And even though Matt suffered in the early game, was very impactful, doing a lot of damage, lots of healing as the fights got later into the game. So not really able to not really able to take advantage of that one-on-one matchup here. But as the picks and bans do come through, finally get to see something at least banned out for Iconic Severance. Last game it was Thresh. I don't really think that would make very much sense to ban this game given how good the Nautilus was. And then it's kind of that thing where do you ban Nautilus and then leave the Thresh open? It kind of seems like, these are different champions, but they do very similar things. So interested to see what they might want to take away from last game. Maybe even taking away something like the Jinx and then picking that, picking the affiliates for yourself or something. Not really sure, but it will be the Thresh again taken away. So that champion, it is really, really versatile. So I can understand why they don't want that one in the game. And only having one ban to begin with isn't very fun. But for Iconic Severance, I was a little bit disappointed in the Mordekaiser particularly. Yes, Mordekaiser was able to grab the first turret, did kind of have that split push presence, but it wasn't a split push presence that actually put enough pressure on the map to affect Team Death Realm's rotation. So if you're going to save the counter pick for something like that, I would like to see something that is either going to win lane a little bit harder, maybe able to split push a little bit more. But as I say that, it will be the Aphelios coming through again for Farachi. So it seems like he is favoring that in particular, but Team Death Realm just going to answer right back with the Nautilus and the Jinx again.
Yeah, Nautilus and Jinx again for TDR. It looked very, very good in game 1. I was definitely a big fan of it. But Renata is going to be the option for Andromeda in this bottom lane. I don't know. I mean, I think Renata is a pretty good pick into Jinx in particular, just because if you do end up hitting that ultimate and Jinx is on rockets, can very easily just wipe her entire team. But we'll have to see how that goes. I think against Nautilus it's pretty hard, but the junglers have been locked in now for both sides. Iconic gonna take the Jin Zhao, and TDR is gonna take away that Trundle again.
Yeah, so both teams picking up some early strength in the jungle is going to give some agency to both of these players. Last time we did see Bipolar falling pretty substantially behind in the early game to Hunter Wolfsteal, and this time Hunter Wolfsteal has his hands on Jin Zhao, which Hecarim was banned away, so Team Death Realm not wanting to deal with that one again. But Jin Zhao, I think, brings a little bit more of that ganking pressure early on. So we'll see if Hunter Wolfsteal can take a little bit more advantage of that. He did have some early ganks on the Hecarim too, but I think Jin Zhao maybe a little bit more consistently able to get the knockup and put laners ahead. And you mentioned the Renata Glosk in the bottom lane for Iconic Severance. Even though a new champion, it has risen very quickly in priority, not only in amateur play but also in the pros as well, because of that long range ultimate setting up these sort of engages as you mentioned. So some interesting bans coming through here from Iconic Severance with the Malphite and Silas taken away, and we'll see which lane Team Death Realm wants to save the counter pick for. I would assume that they're going to pick a tank here and leave it for top, but just as I say that, it's going to be the exact opposite as the victor being hovered.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with the mid lane pick here. I think top lane is so flippy and so volatile that it's better to just have the counter pick there. Victor's going to be the lock in for TDR, very safe pick. It's going to require a lot of resources to punish. I mean, Talon is a very interesting pick here.
Yeah, it definitely could be Talon for sure.
It could be. I would imagine Talon's going to have a pretty hard time early though in this game, as Victor does have the range. As long as Matt's not just going melee range into Silver Smite, but it is Talon going to be locked in here. So that'll be definitely very interesting to see, how Iconic does in this mid lane.
Yeah, and doing some research on Silver Smite before this series, Talon is third most played champion for this player, Vex and Victor being the other two. So this draft is really denying Silver Smite from as many picks as he possibly or as they possibly can from TDR. They ban out the Ari as well. So, all in all, that is going to be 3 picks taken away. So the talent is sort of what's left. And I criticized the Mordekaiser last game. It is going to be Mordekaiser again. And honestly, Ride Chains, I think that you could just run back Orn here if your team Death Realm. That he didn't lose
Yeah.
lane. Was able to stay safe enough, getting some really great roams off, and then of course, just those omnipresent sort of ultimates to set up these team fights in the late game and peel for the Jinx. So it is going to be a lot of the same things coming here from Team Death Realm. Victor, a little bit more kind of sitting back sort of style mage play in the mid lane as opposed to Silas. But outside of that, it is going to be this front to back traditional comp from Team Death Realm, and it's hard to doubt them given how well they executed this composition, especially as we moved into the mid to late game team fights.
Yeah, and I mean this is basically the same composition they ran in game number 1. I like I don't know. I mean, they just have a better mid laner. Like they just have a
Yeah.
better mid lane champion. So I think it'll be hard, but if Silver Smite's able to get ahead on this talent in the early game, it could cause a lot of problems for Team Death Realm. Now, I mentioned this in the last game. They do have a lot of CC and also peel for the Jinx, but I mean, I don't know. I think Jinx should just be able to run over this game. And in addition, Iconic doesn't have that much magic damage on their team, only the Mordekaiser. So armor stacking is going to be very, very key. And I mean, I don't even think you need to stack MR at all, just due to the
No.
fact that you have the counter matchup in the top lane.
Yeah, and I think that Ornn probably has to get like 3 deaths behind in the early game for Mordekaiser to force him into an MR focused build, because I think if you're Nemesis coming into this one thinking about the items that you're going to pick up, you're not really worried about the magic damage either. It's, you're going to be taking magic damage from the orange. Wouldn't be surprised to see one MR item come through. But after that, he's going to be spending most of his time grouping, just like he did last game, and just helping out the team. So because of that, those armor items will be super, super powerful. But last game from Iconic Severance, I criticized the lack of engage from their draft. And we're just going to see more, I would say more of the same with that. Xin Zhao, the jungler instead of Hecarim. Honestly, I feel like Xin Zhao, yes, he has gap close, but really limited on the engage. I know sometimes people kind of have that flash forward and get the ult knockback from the ult, but that's only once every 5 minutes when you have flash available from Xin Zhao. So I am afraid that they might struggle once again to be able to get onto Rusher in the backline. I suppose thinking about it, Talon has a good amount of dive, but if he's not able to 100-0 Jinx, I'm not sure who else is going to be up to the task.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's even all Jinx has to do really is just pick up a stopwatch in this game. And if Jinx goes golden, then Talon's kind of just left out to dry. I mean, it's too much CC on the TDR side to basically let that happen. So I do think that I'm taking TDR in the game just based on draft alone. They get everything they want. I mean, I don't know how on red side you can get everything that you want, but they seem to get everything that they want in this game.
Yeah, and talking a little bit more about Talon as a champion right now. Around sort of the MSI part of the year for last season, we did see, or not, sorry, I'm saying Worlds. At the end of last season, we saw a lot of Talon jungle starting to come out. That Smite Ignite, super popular for a lot of these junglers, but this time it will be in the mid lane. And for me, there's a reason why, especially in competitive settings, we don't see Talon in the mid lane. The reason for that is he needs to push up really hard as a melee champion in order to pick that farm. So will become vulnerable to some possible ganks here from Bipolar, which I think Victor complements pretty well with that Gravity Well, able to follow up on the CC. And the other thing for Talon too is you had referenced how if Jinx picks up a stopwatch, that makes it kind of impossible for Silver Smite to be able to get the assassination, and I think that Talon as a solo queue champion, there's so much more chaos going on in those solo queue games that you can pull it off a little bit easier. But I'm concerned, to be completely honest, about the ability of Silver Smite to do that in this 5v5 competitive setting where you are going to have the Ornn, you are going to have the Nautilus. Paying more attention to Rusher on this Jinx instead of, leaving the AD carry in the backline, as so often happens in these solo queue games.
All right, so I am looking here at the chat and actually do have disabled picks. Renata and Xin Zhao are not supposed to be picked together. And that actually that is a league rule for this week.
Yeah.
As an updated champ, sort of combo. We'll see what happens here. They're supposed to lose a ban for it, but it looks like it's going to be waived. So they will. They'll keep their one ban, but we are going to be restarting this draft completely. So nothing that we said matters at all.
Yep. All right. Well, we are just gonna start it over again. So that's really fun. I'm glad that we spent the time and energy analyzing that draft. I mean, I guess to be fair, to Iconic, there are a lot of banned combinations right now,
there are.
and to defend the league, there are these bugs that are persistent with these duos that are really game breaking bugs. Honestly, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is for Renata and Xin Zhao in particular, but we don't want those things to come up during the game, so it's necessary to do that until Riot decides to fix their game. But hopefully we'll be able to get into this new draft here momentarily.
wow.
And I mean, honestly, I would say, like, personally, I felt like that draft from Iconic was not the best. So, they're supposed to lose a ban, graciously given back to them by TDR, and I think it's nice to get another mock draft in, given how difficult things were for them in game one. Once the team compositions sort of were able to show their true colors, and I think it would have repeated itself a little bit in this next game. So it could really be their saving grace, I guess, just to be able to redo the draft here.
Okay, so I'm looking at the actual interaction between the Xin Zhao and Renata, and if Xin Zhao gets Renata W and then dies, and then presses R, since Renata is out of the circle range of Xin Zhao, he doesn't take damage, so he stays at full HP while the W is ticking down after he dies.
Yeah.
So that's
game breaking. Yeah.
That's a pretty broken bug. But yeah, we're gonna be remaking this lobby here. Wait, I don't even have the link. Do you have the link?
No, I do not have the link. So hopefully,
we're in. We are drafting. I'm watching it on the stream. Jinx is first picked.
Okay.
This time
Yeah.
For
I should watch the
for
stream
Iconic.
someday.
For Iconic.
Yeah, we're really far behind. But yeah,
there we go. We got
interesting. And just looking at kind of the results of redoing this, Renata just does get completely banned out of this one by Team Death Realm, so they just don't want to play against that in general. And nice to get the second chance to be able to ban that one away. But I mean, obviously, Iconic are the ones with the second draft, and I really like this pick, Jinx. I had said it during the first draft, Riot Chains. I was surprised that we didn't see a ban of one of these hyper carries coming through and then picking the other one first pick. Even so, this time they also adjust their ban to be the Nautilus, and so this is another thing that's really interesting to me. It's like, what changed in between the first and second iterations of these drafts that you decided that it was worth it to ban Nautilus instead of Thresh? Because obviously they were going to pick it again. I don't know. So
yeah, I'm not really sure either. I mean, it's definitely a swap up in the comps here. Iconic going back to the Ahri and the Hecarim, a pretty strong 2v2 combo in the mid lane, or at least mid jungle combo in the not in anywhere. But Silas again is going to be picked up by Matt. Trundle is going to be coming back in for Bipolar, and interestingly enough, we get a Braum this time, even though the Thresh was left open.
Yeah, so that's, at the end of the day, Thresh not really being that heavily valued by Team Death Realm. I think in the world where they're able to take the first rotation of Thresh and the Jinx together, it makes a little bit more sense to provide some mobility to Jinx. And yeah, just like I said, coming through the second time through Iconic, definitely hitting a lot more of those markers that I would like to see them do. Banning the Ornn, they banned Malphite last game as well, but doing that again. So just a that hard engage from Team Deathrealm is going to be important for them, as I'm excited to see what they'll finish the comp out with. If they might maybe bring something into the top lane, bring something into the support role that can bring a little bit more engage ability to start the fights. Andromeda, though, it looks like she is mostly a mage player, or kind of these shielding type supports, so not necessarily super likely for
Oh,
that to come through. But I was gonna say, what hyper carry are we going to see? And it will be Rusher's Twitch, which going through his solo queue has been a champion that he's familiar with, not one that's been in the meta for a long time though. So honestly, this draft, I'm preferring it at the end of the day to the last one so far.
yeah, and I mean, just looking at the possible support options here, Lulu looks very, very good for Iconic. Graves is
Yeah.
going to be the pick for the top lane, and that's going to be a little bit different, obviously, than the previous Mordekaiser that we got, but still can get punished. Obviously Malphite banned away, so you can't go for that angle of it, but there are still some champions that can punish it. Off the top, I'm not going to go into any of them because I'm not 100% sure, but I know there are. There are some options here. Last pick support coming through here for Iconic. We'll see what they opt to go for here. Nami's
Interesting.
also a solid pick with Jinx, just because you're able to buff up the 3 autos,
True.
and give that attack speed. So I'm okay with that pick. I think it's
Yeah.
solid. I know I've played it a little bit, in my solo queue games. So I'm a fan. Last pick here for Team Deathrealm is going to be in that top lane. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
or
looking for.
Nemesis could be taking it, the Trundle.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, definitely could be that. Sejuani is going to end up being the lock-in. So you called it out. Could be Sejuani top lane. We have seen in the Wednesday conference, Ulveric of TA Knight has been a fan of that one. But I'm anticipating that it's going to be the Trundle for Team Deathrealm going up there, and for Bipolar coming in with the Sejuani. Team Deathrealm, they before the season when we had the lock-in tournament, Team Deathrealm did find a good amount of success, and a huge amount of that was off the back of Bipolar picking Sejuani in every single game. And so excited to see him get his hands on this again in this draft. And talking about a little bit more the Nami and the Jinx, you mentioned how the E is able to provide that slow onto the Jinx auto attacks. And yes, that's not providing additional engage necessarily for Iconic Severance, but sometimes all you need is that little bit of slow to set up the Ari charm or allow Hecarim to kind of get that last bit of gap close. So I like it in that. Coming through also has a really strong laning phase, especially into a champion like Braum, whose laning phase is honestly pretty non-existent overall. So Iconic Severance definitely doing it a little bit better on the second try, and with the Graves locked in too, does kind of have that similar identity to Mordekaiser, just in that it's gonna bully lane, but not necessarily be that team fighting sort of champion, but I think has a little bit maybe more agency than the Mordekaiser, a little bit more mobility, does have that range too. So I wonder if Yoey didn't feel kind of forced into picking Mordekaiser in the last draft just due to the lack of AP. This time he's free to do whatever he wants because of the Ari is the pick for the mid lane. So Graves it will be. And I don't know. Overall, Chains, I'm just really excited to see what this Twitch can do, what Rusher can do on it, and how Team Deathrealm will be able to play around it in general.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, and I think that Braum and Twitch are a pretty solid combination. You know, Braum can just jump right onto the invisible Twitch and kind of get that free gap close ability. But going back to your point about the magic damage coming out from Ari, I don't think it's going to be enough for Iconic Severance. I mean, again, you have a lot of maples on TDR's roster with the Sejuani, the Braum, and even the Trundle is going to be able to tank up a lot. And these champions are just going to be stacking armor, and you know, Jinx, Hecarim, and Graves aren't going to be able to do damage, and Ari naturally just doesn't do that much damage unless you're really far ahead. I imagine Silver Smite's going to go for the Everfrost again, just, taking away even more damage in exchange for that utility. And I don't know. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not convinced that Iconic has enough damage to actually cut through this TDR roster.
And yeah, I mean, I think that I'll be interested to see kind of what Nemesis decides to build in the top lane, because as you said, armor is going to be a really efficient stat to pick up in this. But at the same time, I feel like Trundle definitely usually wanting to pick up something like the Divine Sunderer as the first item, something like that. So could come through a little bit slower. But says definitely going to go full tank Braum as well, even though, we don't think of Braum as kind of a primary sort of tank, but will get kind of difficult to kill. And overall, Braum picked in the first rotation for Team Death Realm, but really, really valuable in this game to be able to block a lot of the damage that Graves can put out, blocking that Jinx rocket, and even the tidal wave from Nami 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Braum ult, if it's the first thing that hits it, it just blocks the tidal wave. So there's a really high ceiling in this game from what Team Deathrealm, Mr. Potate, can do from the support role, but it's a question of whether or not he can mechanically play it off and have the reaction speed to take advantage of the pick that he has in this draft.
We saw a lot of good from Mr. Potate in game number 1, finding a lot of those hooks, finding a lot of picks and depth charges as well onto the primary carriers of Iconic. We'll see if Mr. Potate can do it again and if TDR is able to take game 2 and take the series into O fashion, or if Iconic can push it to game 3. We're actually going to go into a break this time, and we will be right back.
Everybody panic! Hold on! I'm about to say something really cool. 3, 41, 9, and lift off! No one dies screaming without me. I feel like I forgot to shoot something. You're starting to bore me. She's such a loser, always ready to cry. Ah, come on. What's the worst that could happen?
And we are back onto the Rift for game number 2 between Iconic, Severance, and TDR. For TDR on the red side this time, Nemesis on Trundle in the top lane, Bipolar on Sejuani in the jungle, Matt on Silas in the mid lane, and Rusher and Mr. Potate rounding out the bottom lane with the Twitch and the Braum. We're getting an invade again here as Hunter is just getting run down by 3, but they won't find anything besides some information and some vision.
Yeah, and I think I forgot last game, so sorry to Iconic because of the invade that happened, just like this game as well. But in the top lane, we have Yowie on the Graves, Hunter Wolfsteal second time in the jungle on the Hecarim for this series, Silver Smite with the Ahri, repeating that one as well. And then we got Farachi on the Jinx, and Andromeda has picked up the Nami. So level 1 vision going down for the side of Team Ethereum as they go into the enemy jungle. Doesn't look like any vision has been traded yet on the other side. So that will be a bit of an advantage as they can pretty much assume where Hunter Wolfsteal is starting, which can't be starting on based on this. And just taking a little bit of a look here at the summoner spells, TDR Nemesis in the top lane does opt for the Ghost, which I think makes sense in the context of this one-on-one matchup against the Graves, where you're going to have to run him down if you want to take those one-on-ones, but not necessarily like the most traditional choice on Trundle. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out, especially in the later kind of team fights where you might want to have that flash to get forward, get a pillar down as quickly as you can. Onto someone, onto Farachi or another immobile member of the squad. So interesting choice here from Nemesis for that particular one.
Yep, early level 2s are going to be coming in here for both of these teams, or both of these bottom lanes, and I know that the Twitch and the Twitch and Braum are definitely going to want to fight here, or at least just try to cause some havoc. As Twitch does so well. Both of the junglers have completed their bottom side quadrant and make their way up to the top side. So we might see some action in, about 30 to 40 seconds in this top lane. We'll see how that goes, if anything ends up coming out of that. But nonetheless, a relatively relaxed early game. However, a 300 gold passive lead for Iconic Severance.
Yeah, it will be, and I think part of that is this, we can see right now these solo lanes in the mid lane and in the top lane. These range champions are going to be the ones to push in. Actually, there's a little bit of a range advantage in every single role other than the jungle here, but that didn't seem to be too much of an issue for TDR. In fact, it seemed like it benefited them as they went later and later into the game. So if they can survive this early game, it should mean quite a bit, as as we see as these waves sort of push into the towers, it does get closer and closer. Is going to be just about 100 gold lead there, and we did see a little bit of a scuffle in the top side over this Scuttle Crab, but ultimately did get secured by Bipolar on the Sejuani. So nice pickup for him. The other one is going to go over to Hunter Wolfsteal. So for the Sejuani being able to get through that first clear, unscathed, Hecarim isn't really somebody that we think of as punishing the enemy jungler that early in the game, but Sejuani obviously wanting to get to that level 6 as fast as she possibly can, and picking up those first few camps is a big part of that.
Yeah, Nemesis gonna go onto Yowie here and gonna, get about a half HP trade down. It's just the power of this Trundle. If the Trundle gets on you, is able to bite you, take your AD away, and just kind of, whack you like crazy. Bipolar's in this top lane, does have the flash available. We'll see if they have to go for something, but Yowie also has the flash, so might be a little bit challenging. But look at this, looping around on the minimap. You can see they're gonna look for this dive here, as Yowie is in trouble, gonna get knocked up. Stun comes through, will use the flash, but oh no, it looks like it's not oh my gosh, the tower does so much damage, and the first blood goes over to Yowie, but will get traded back to Nemesis. But either way, I mean, it's a fat wave that's crashing into the tower. Yowie has the TP, but either way, it's still gonna miss some. Hunter Wolfsteal in this bottom side. Oh, a beautiful bubble from Andromeda. Mr. Potato has to flash away to safety, and the exhaust comes out onto Hunter, but no casualties in this bottom lane off the back of that play. However, it is a 3-4-2 summoner spell advantage in favor of Iconic.
And most importantly for me, Rusher does lose not only the exhaust, but also the flash. So without the flash, the Twitch does become a lot more vulnerable to the Hecarim in particular. And really nice bubble there from Andromeda to catch Mr. Potate mid-jump there, denying some of that mobility that Braum has to get away from those sort of ganks. So even though that one doesn't result in a kill, it's definitely going to be worth it. Hunter Wolfsteal using the Ghost is a pretty negligible cooldown in comparison to something like a flash. So even though Hunter's back on the top side of the map now, I think that we'll see him rotate back down towards this bot side sooner rather than later to try to take advantage of that summoner spell discrepancy, because Farachi was able to save the heal, was able to save the flash. So the Jinx still staying pretty safe. But as I say that, we do see Matt getting some vision into the enemy jungle and has been able to play this early game out a little bit more successfully than he did last game. But Hunter Wolfsteal maybe right now looking to change that.
Yeah, but look at Bipolar is in the area, but Hunter Wolfsteal going in. Matt's just going to be able to dash right out, and they might actually look for this as Matt's going to steal away the Onslaught of Shadows going in as the Charm's going to land to try to buy some time. Hunter Wolfsteal is taking so low, but the damage is just too much from Silver Smite, and Matt's going to go down.
Yeah, and there just seemed like a big lack of communication there between Matt and his jungler, as Bipolar was certainly in the area, but seemed more interested in finishing off the Scuttle Crab, but we had a flash, or we had a pillar.
Oh my gosh, Nemesis smacking down the Chomp. A few more autos would have been enough, but the tower is going to repel any further aggression from Nemesis, and a lot of these team members from both sides are going into this bottom lane as the Dragon is available. It's going to be the Hex Tech, one that we didn't see at all last game, actually.
Yeah, will be the Hextech Dragon is the first one. Nobody putting a lot of priority on it yet. We saw a lot of early priority on the Dragons during last game, but here comes Rusher, still invisible, but can be pretty much assumed that he is there as Bipolar going to pick up his blue buff. Hunter Wolfsteal is in the river there. He's going to be able to just run away though, and actually Bipolar is wanting to do something about it. And we see heavy trading here on the bot side as well, but just revisiting top lane where we saw Yowie getting run down by Nemesis in that 1v1. There was a level discrepancy there for Nemesis, just with the wave not having crashed yet. But you got to think, if Yowie doesn't pick up that Vampiric Scepter on the first back, I'm not sure, you know, it would still be close, but not sure if he's able to survive that one. So that extra gold, especially coming from getting the first blood in particular, you're still happy with that. I think if you're the Graves, probably you're wanting to bully a little bit harder than you have so far, but more fighting bot lane.
Fighting in this bottom lane as the traps are going to be crucial. Going to root up Mr. Potate, and Farachi is going to find the kill there. The Super Mega Death Rocket is going to find Rusher as well, and a double kill comes through for Farachi, and that's exactly what you need if you're iconic.
Yeah, and both of the kills also going over to Farachi, and I spoke last game when he was on the Affiliates about how this player has kind of been the big carry for Iconic, picking up the majority of the kills, doing so much of their damage as well. So Farachi will be taking advantage of that, and Iconic, you know, in a pretty good spot. Bipolar will trade objective for objective as the Rift Herald is going to be picked up for Team Deathrealm. He wanted to make something happen in the top lane, maybe some sort of gank on Yowie with this level 6 coming through from the Sejuani, but not going to be able to do so. So that will be kind of some potential sitting gold for Team Deathrealm if they can find a good place to drop it, but that hasn't been the case so far, and we'll see. I'm excited to see where Bipolar decides to place the next gank, as this is what I was going to say, is what starts to happen is the Graves can eventually have that short of a cooldown on the E that you can usually back off pretty well, but if Graves is just sitting under his turret all game, I'm not really sure what that's doing as a pick for the team. So at the very least, Nemesis limiting the options top lane, but
3 members top lane. Nemesis going to burn that Ghost. Oh my gosh, nice use of the pillar actually, but the Onslaught of Shadows is going to get the fear back, and Silver Smite is there to take the kill. Now 5 kills to 1 in favor of Iconic, and they do have a pretty substantial gold lead in the bot lane. We go here as the Legendary Fish is going to find the mark onto Farachi, but look at the nice bubble and CC from Andromeda with the wave as well. It's time to spray and pray because Andromeda is taking very, very low, as now Farachi's going to be at Super Mega Death Rocket and doing so much damage, and Mr. Potate's going to go down, and it's time to get excited. Farachi finding another double kill in this bottom lane.
And right there, Andromeda doing a big part with the heals coming through on the Nami to keep Farachi very healthy. Obviously didn't even get close to dying in that situation. So for Mr. Potato too, jumping forward, I talked about how the tidal wave can be blocked by the Braum shield. It looked like it kind of went over to the side of him that time. So wasn't able to make that happen. And for the bottom lane of Team Death Realm, I just felt like, you know, choosing that all-in fight in a situation where, you know, they don't have to. And on top of that, Braum doesn't bring the laning prowess, honestly doesn't even bring the sort of damage early on that you see from something like a Nautilus. So maybe just growing a little bit more used to that is Team Death Realm. And you know, not having it in this game, they will die in the 2v2. And all of a sudden, this is Jinx with you know, 4-0 and 0, 2-0 and 0 in the mid lane for Silver Smite. And you know, I feel like if you're Iconic, you don't want to get too excited just because of what happened last game, but you're definitely feeling good about where you have put yourself and where you'll be able to move from here. TDR though,
oh my
this
gosh,
might work.
Yeah, this is gonna work. No summoners on Farachi at all. Yeah, Farachi's gonna go give the kill to Twitch. Oh
Rift
my
Girl.
gosh, the team is trolling, dude.
Yeah.
Either way, Shutdown's gonna go over to Bipolar.
Okay.
Hunter Wolfsteal could be in trouble here. Gonna get the devastating charge onto Mr. Potato back under the tower.
Where's Nami?
This is still a pretty... Oh my gosh! Andromeda is just caught out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
As Matt and Bipolar are just gonna jump on her and take her down. And now 4 members to 2 in favor of TDR in this bottom lane is gonna mean that the Herald is spawned up and they should be able to secure this tower.
Prison.
Oh, Glacial Prison is huge from Bipolar. And Rusher is gonna get the kill there onto Silver Smite, and just like that, the goal lead is back in TDR's favor.
And I said not to get too excited for a very specific reason, which is that last game, TDR did show the ability to come from behind as we enter sort of this early part of the mid game, I guess I will say, at about 12.5 minutes. So for Farachi, that's kind of a, you know, that's pretty much just a terrible situation to be in, as we do have a little bit of contesting the red buff.
Oh, Andromeda again caught in the middle of 2. Gonna go down as Matt finds the kill. Oh, yeah, and look at this. TDR is just going to be able to run into Hunter Wolfsteal jungle. Wait a minute! Hunter Wolfsteal going to get exhausted down. One more auto ship on the sun, but Silver going in! Going to find the kill onto Mr. Potato now, and Rusher's taking very, very low. Silver going to keep with the flash. And Spirit Rush. Press E. Have the stun, but never mind. On the other side of the play, Matt and Hunter Wolfsteal. Shutdown's going to go over to Hunter. And the gold lead's still in favor of TDR, but Iconic showing signs of life. Bipolar should go down here as well as the Shutdown goes through to Farachi. And Iconic is back in.
Yeah, this game just swinging back and forth. Now it's just about a 200 gold advantage for Iconic. But again, the gold is in the right place for this team. They have the Ahri, you know, going to be able to probably go back and pick up the first item soon here. Did take the pit stop at the Oblivion Orb, but one item already done for Jinx before that even happened. So it is going to be about 1,300 gold sitting in Farachi's pocket still. Probably not going to build a BF sword, but you know, having used to play 80, well, I still play 80 carry sometimes, but you know, when you're an 80 carry, you think of one thing when you look at that 1,300 gold. I feel like, which is that. But it probably is going to be the Runons instead coming through second, I would guess. But Hunter Wolfsteal.
Matt going on to Hunter Wolfsteal doesn't have the damage or the lockdown, unfortunately, to take him out, but the dragon has spawned. And it looks like TDR is going to be first to the pit and should be able to secure that dragon with Hunter having to go back to base.
Yeah, so we'll end up being, unless some kind of miracle steal here with the rocket comes through.
Oh my god.
That's not been really close though. Good smite by Polar, definitely. But it will be 1-1. So what that really tells me overall is that it's going to be pretty late in the game here if we are going to get a soul coming through. But Nemesis, there hasn't been, you know, comparatively speaking at least, there hasn't been as much action up onto this top side. But Nemesis continuing to have control on this Trundle. I like to see that because they, you know, they forgo picking a tank because of that. He's got to make it worth it. But Caster Curse
In the 1v3, Nemesis gonna use the subjugate to try and steal some of those resistances away, but Silver Smite goes on a killing spree. Now sitting at 5, 1, and 2 on this Ari, feeling very, very strong. Is gonna find Mr. Potate. Block out the charm. We'll see if there's any follow-up damage to come through though, as Rusher is just pushing mid lane. They go invisible now, and here we go. Glacial Prism, but oh, look at the bottom side. Farachi and Andromeda, 2 are dead already, as Bipolar will try to flash to get the safety, but the charm should come through in a few seconds. Going over the wall, no, cannot, as a double kill comes through for Farachi, and it is the Jinx show in this game.
Yeah, Farachi just getting more gold, picking up the double buffs, just, you know, unless I guess you're camping a Russian bot lane, looking really unstoppable right now. And for TDR, you know, it's worked in the past. They've been able to recover from it, but just continuing with a little bit of a lack of discipline with where they're choosing to start the fights. I understand that Mr. Potate, what he's thinking in that situation, which is, you know, hey, I've got my team behind me. It's going to take quite a while for Ari to be able to kill me. In fact, she probably doesn't have the damage to do so. But I think the best case scenario for Team Death Realm there is that you burn the Spirit Rush out of the Ari, which we saw. So it's one ultimate, you know, traded for another. But
no.
They say
Nemesis, again, getting ganked by Hunter. Will Steel going to just pretty much die there, as the resources were not there quick enough for TDR, and they are starting to bleed away gold. Now it's a 3,000 gold lead in favor of Iconic. You're looking across the rift at a 2-0-10 Hecarim, a 5-1-5 Ari, and a 7-1-4 Jinx, and this is not a position you want to be in if you're a TDR fan.
Yeah, and I like, just once again going back to Bipolar using the Glacial Prison on Ari. You know, if you're able to burst her out right away, then maybe it's worth it. But otherwise, I think if anybody other than Farachi is getting hit by, you know, I understand that sometimes when you're playing a champion like Sejuani with this really impactful ultimates, you can't always get it on exactly who you want. But with that being said, if it's not hitting Farachi, they're not going to be having a good time. But Silver Smite does know, or maybe just guesses, that Matt was in this brush. And going back to Silver Smite, who again is an emergency substitute for this team, I think from game 1 to game 2 has shown a lot more ability to rotate with the team. We've seen him in these ganks top lane, but speaking of top lane ganks,
Yoey gonna be in trouble here. They're gonna go under the, wow, I am really surprised that they didn't continue that dive there. I mean, I guess they didn't anyone mid lane, and they thought maybe Hunter Wolfsteal was there and they didn't want to overextend, but either way, I mean, Yoey was looking real juicy right there. But nonetheless, you know, Yoey will survive with his life. The Herald's going to be spawned in this bottom lane as now Matt is under attack. We'll use the Everfrost to buy some time. And it looks like Hunter is going to be not going to be able to find the mark on to Matt, but the Herald will find the tower in this bottom lane. And that's going to be the second tower of the game for Iconic. This charge onto the third. They are 4 members strong. Matt's gonna take away the onslaught of shadows. We'll see what happens here. Is there gonna be traded towers in the mid lane? Mid lane tier 1 will fall in favor of TDR, but you know.
Mid lane is going to be a big turret to pick up for Team Death Realm, but also it's worth noting that these inner turrets are worth the most gold. So Bipolar might be in a little bit of trouble.
Might be in trouble as Silver's trying to find it with the Spirit Rush. Does have the charm available. We'll see if they have to go for it. The Glacial Prism is very nice. Oh no, Bipolar is caught in the middle of 4 members and will go down. Nemesis has to run for the hills as they are all coming. The entire Iconic squad is on the way for the Trundle. The Flash Charm is proper. And Silver Smite, off the back of a nice Flash Charm, Yoey's going to find the kill there. And the with the Baron spawning in 45 seconds, you have to imagine that they're going to look for that on spawn.
Yeah, maybe. They might. It looks like there were originally pings going down into the Baron, but obviously you don't want to just sit and waste an entire 30 seconds waiting for that one. So they are going to go to the Dragon first. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come up and at least, you know, continue to control the vision around this Baron so they can force some fights. But at this point, for Team Death Realm, it is starting to look really sticky here because Farachi has just been, you know, kind of done his best impression of Rusher in game 1, which is to say has been able to sit in the backline and sort of free hit. And Bipolar getting caught out in that situation in the enemy jungle, Not sure why he was there in the first place, just because very greedy pathing to put yourself in that spot. But then it kind of kills me, to be completely honest, to see him using the Glacial Prison there, because if you're going to go down, that's one thing, but then blowing your main cooldown as well, just to get nothing back from it, when there was really no way he was going to survive with Hunter Wolfsteal wrapping around the backside. So yeah, I don't know. Just we've seen a lot of sloppiness from both teams, but in this one, TDR overall looking like the sloppier squad.
Absolutely, and I mean, all things being considered here, it's only a 3.5K gold differential.
True.
Actually, less. It's a 3K gold differential, which is crazy to think about, just because of the fact that, like, it seems like this game has been all iconic. There's only one dragon difference and one tower difference. So I mean, with all that being said, there's still a lot of gold on the table for TDR to find. Just getting picks, getting shutdowns, and evening up the tower score. But TDR is not out of this game, I would say, by any means. And Nemesis going to get engaged on here in the 1v2 situation, trying to get the subjugate to get those resistances back. But there's just nothing that you can do in the 1v2. Farachi might be in trouble here, rocking into Rusher. Has to burn the heal to get away to safety. Andromeda is there with that tidal wave. We'll see if there's any follow-up that comes through. But no, there's not. The rest of the team is on the way for Iconic. Hunter Wolf still going to dive into the backline here, but a nice job there. The shutdown's going to go over. Silver Smite taking very, very low as Rusher's going to go down. We'll see if they have enough damage here as a triple kill comes through now for Farachi. Does Bipolar have what it takes? Yes. We'll find the shutdown back as Andromeda's taking very low. Bipolar with a double kill. But Silver Smite will continue with the ace. Yeah, and Graves on the top
still
side.
in the bot lane, was never forced to teleport to help the team in that fight. So it was a 4v5 that ends up actually being won by Iconic as well, with Silver Smite being the last one alive in that particular engagement. So I guess Nemesis was picked off earlier, so I suppose it was probably a 3-for-3. But coming out ahead, not only in kills, but also in towers as they pick up the inhibitor turret. Don't think they're going to be able to finish off this one, as Nemesis has arrived to defend it, and Rusher on the way too. But for this Trundle pick in the top lane, really hasn't done much. Was able to push in Yowie throughout the lane, but all that really resulted in was him getting ganked 5 times, as we can see from the KDA. And now, if you're Nemesis, there's no good ult target, to be completely honest, from the enemy team. No tanks to steal those resistances from, and you also aren't really able to split push against the Graves because he doesn't have enough of a lead. Graves having sort of that ranged wave clear, so I feel like Trundle ends up being the champion in this game that is kind of just out of his element, sort of doesn't have a place amongst the overall composition. So interested to see how Nemesis will play that one out. But
Andromeda could be getting caught here, but instead it might be Bipolar getting caught here, as the title was going to come through. Hunter Wolfsteal is going to get locked up by the Glacial Prison, but the Onslaught Shadow is going to find a lot of value as Rusher's going to get 1 kill on the backside. Watch Farachi though, as they are diving into the backline, as Mr. Potato's going to take down Andromeda. But look at Silver Smite dashing in and out, trying to find the damage. Going to get stunned up and taken down though, as Yowie in the backline is ripping through, and that's 2 shutdowns that went over to Rusher. But either way, it's a 4-for-3 in favor of Iconic. And they're going to be pushing mid.
Most importantly, go ahead. Sorry.
That's it.
Most importantly of all, Farachi, untouched in that fight, did not have the flash available after using it to flash forward in the previous fight. But even with that, TDR aren't able to get to the backline and make Jinx, or punish Jinx for the lack of that cooldown, and the inner turret is going to be finished off. And Yowie, who is just forced under his own turret all game long in the early game, we saw him picking up the first blood gold after the failed gank, and he has really shown a lot of patience in this game, just really committing to that split push strategy, and then finally when the time is right, using the teleport here. But it will be the dragon coming up very, very soon here. It looks like just a couple of seconds until it comes up. It would be soul point on that Cloud Dragon.
Mr. Potato has to burn the flash to get away. We'll dodge out of the Super Mega Death Rocket, but
yep, they're gonna get it.
And carry it, yeah.
This is huge for Hecarim in particular, who benefits from the Cloud Soul maybe more than any other champion in the game, just because he gets the additional damage as well from the movement speed. So it's not the soul yet. Will be one more dragon that Iconic need to pick up in order to make that one happen. But they have grown the gold lead to about 4.3k. Looks like. So that is pretty substantial. It's not impossible to overcome, especially with some of these bounties that we do see on the table here. 400 gold on Graves, 400 gold on Jinx too. If you're TDR, you definitely want to make a pick on one of those champions happen sooner rather than later to be able to grab that. But would Rusher look for the one-on-one? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I mean, just even with what the Cloud Dragon offers and brings to the table without the soul is the cooldown reduction, or the ability haste rather.
True.
And when you're looking at the ultimates here from Iconic, there's a lot of value ultimates. Also, Shadows with this Baron is being started up here. Teleport's going to come in from that. As here we go. Bipolar does not have the flash to get in, but that's what Smite goes in, and the Baron moves. We're going to press Farachi, but the fight ensuing afterwards, as there's a lot of damage coming. Matt takes away the onset Shadows, but I don't think it is going to be enough, as it is all Iconic. Severance, that's going to be 4 dead already. The last one is going to fall as well, and a clean 5-for-0 ace for Iconic, Severance, and the Baron.
24 seconds on Mr. Potato is the first one to spawn. It looks like Nemesis is the next one with 32 seconds. They are going to push it up mid, trying to make it look like exactly like Team Deathrealm did in Game 1. They would, at the very minimum, be able to pick up 2 inhibitors, but I don't think that that's what they want, right, Chase? I think they are just going to go try to end the game and send us to a Game 3 in this playoff series. Whoever wins gets into the quarterfinals, and whoever loses goes home, and it's Iconic staying alive in Game 2.
Iconic stays alive and pushes it to a Game 3. It's gonna come down to it. Who wants the playoff spot more, Iconic or Team Deathrealm? We're gonna take a short break, and we'll be back for the pick ban of that one. You're not gonna miss it, because this is the one that counts. And we are back for game number 3 pick ban between Team Death Realm and Iconic Severance. Iconic pushing it to game 3. You already know how that goes, and they are still on their 2 missed bans due to the ESA, but Vex Hecarim banned away by Team Death Realm. And I'm kind of wondering, what was your take on the drafts here and any sort of patterns that you've seen in both of these games, Elsa?
I mean, I was just saying it to you, right, Shane? So you'll be bored to hear it again. But I just think that both of these teams in the games that they've lost have struggled to get onto the back line of the enemy squad, which just has allowed Rusher and Farachi both, when they've had their hands on this Jinx, to go crazy and sit back there pretty much untouched. Like the 2 situations in which Farachi died, one is when they camped 4 people in between 2 turrets for TDR earlier in the game, and then the other was when he literally flashed forward in the team fight. So Jinx has kind of come up as sort of the most contested pick, I will say, or maybe most valuable pick so far in this draft. But because of that, we are seeing it banned out by Iconic Severance, and Team Death Realm just going to do a repeat of game 1, pick up the Nautilus. And this Nautilus was super strong for Mr. Potato in game 1, and I think it makes sense in game 2. However, Xayah definitely going to be a harder champion to play it against than Jinx.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like this Xayah pick a lot here. You can use that Featherstorm to sort of cancel out of the depth charge from Nautilus.
Right.
Very, very valuable pick there. And it does kind of allow for Iconic to kind of absorb the dive that Team Death Realm wants to go for. You talked about which team has more dive, you know what I mean? And Xayah is the perfect champion to pick into dive, or the perfect AD carry to pick into dive, because you can kind of buy that, 1.5 seconds or however long the ultimate is. Ornn going to be the pick in the top lane for TDR. They're just blind picking it at this point to say, listen, it worked for us in game 1. We're feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. They don't want to allow it to be banned out in the second phase of bans, so they're gonna pick up the Ornn again, and it's just really funny.
Wow.
And with this, so Sivir coming through, interestingly enough, this actually, switch. I'll talk about that a little bit. I was looking at the history here for Team Death Realm, and we do see that last week, in their matchup against Zeal White, they did play a Sivir game for Rusher. So Sivir is not a champion that we see very much of at all right now in the meta. Kind of a little bit of a shorter range, I feel like, than sort of what we're used to seeing. But Sivir does scale really well, does team fight well as you get later into the game. And so I like that scaling element coming through from Team Death Realm, just kind of making sure that you can never count them out. And then also just the ultimate for Sivir, speeding up the Ornn, speeding up the Nautilus to get in position for those dreadlines that we saw Mr. Potato throwing out over and over in game 1. So not a traditional pick, but I'm not going to judge it until I see how Team Death Realm play this one out. But I'm curious to get your thoughts too, Right Chains. As an AD carry, what do you like? If Sivir is something that you're seeing more, or you feel like this is kind of a particular kind of niche thing coming from Team Death Realm?
I saw a server yesterday in solo queue, and it was like the worst thing I've ever seen. But I think it has some merit in specific situations. I think it's decent in this game just because there's so many, abilities that can catch you out with the charm, with the solar flare from Leona, and as well as the stun. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Sivir to actually thrive in this game. And in addition, when you're picking all these, meatballs, again, we're seeing it. I mean, Nautilus, Ornn, Trundle, able to able to give them that movement speed to kind of run in and sort of play the front to back in a little bit more with more ease. I think it's not bad. I maybe would have liked to see something like, a Kaisa, or like even like a Lucian, who has been rising in popularity, but
Yeah.
I think it has merit. It wouldn't have been my choice, but I think it's not a bad choice.
Yeah, and I mean, I brought up the scaling, and something that I didn't really consider when I talked about that was the variety of builds that we could see coming out from Sivir. I just think of it with
Wow.
Shyvana going to be locked in too as the last pick jungle for Iconic Severance. So as we were talking, we do have a number of picks coming through here. Dr. Mundo in the top lane for Iconic will be matched by this Ornn that was picked up earlier, but the Trundle back into the jungle for Bipolar, and then really just all in on this late game scaling. Again, pending sort of the build from Sivir, but all in on this late game scaling with the Veigar pick as well. So I like that. I like this scaling that we do see from Team Deathrealm, but if there's anything that sort of enables, it is for the enemy jungler to be able to sit in their jungle and do what they want to do for the first part of their game. Maybe not going to be so afraid about these invades when the solo laners are Veigar and Ornn, who might not be doing that as much early on. So Shyvana makes a lot of sense in that situation. She's just going to want to hard farm through the first couple of clears, ideally, and you know, a nice use of the red side, I think, here from Iconic, given that they wanted to prioritize that Ahri again for the mid lane. And Hunter Wolf Steel has been the big carry, has been the big sort of one to, well, I think Farachi's kind of been the big carry, but what we've seen is Hunter Wolfseer is really the one to start out a lot of these fights and really the one to, kind of be that raid boss. So him getting Shyvana, it does put a lot of agency in his hands, and it's a fun pick to watch. Once she gets that ultimate, it isn't just farming it up.
Yeah, Shyvana is definitely something I'm seeing rising in priority a little bit. Just as a jungler, you can build it both ways. You can build it three ways, honestly. You can build it AD, tank, or AP. Um, I don't even know what we're gonna get this game, honestly, just because the fact that Iconic has been cool to just rock with the solo Ahri AP damage. So that leads me to believe that we might not be seeing the AP Shyvana. But either way, this is definitely going to be an interesting one. And if Trundle is able to get in and kind of disrupt what Hunter Wolfsteal is trying to do in this early game, it could be pretty tough.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you bring up the damage spread that we do see really on both teams, but specifically on Iconic. They definitely do have a better spread of damage than we saw before. In the draft that we didn't actually see getting played out, the Ornn ended up getting picked into basically a full AD team comp. So that won't be the case this time, which means that Nemesis has to be a little bit more respectful with the build path. So Iconic has that one going for them, I suppose, at least. And for Shyvana, yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what kind of build she does decide to go for. I know, I'm not sure if still people kind of do on-hit things with Shyvana or not, but certainly that can be valuable against some of these tankier champions. So Hunter Wolf Steel, we will have to see what sort of build he does decide to go for here on the Shyvana, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking at this mid lane really quick before we toss it to a break here. The Veigar into Ahri, I'm a big fan of the Veigar just in general. I think it's a very strong pick. It has a lot of good laning prowess just with the cage. You have a lot of, control with the cage and being able to section off certain areas for your team to be able to walk in, the enemy team to not be able to walk into, as well as Ahri is not going to be able to get out of the cage if she's put in. The Spirit Rush is still going to connect and still stun up the Ahri. So I definitely like this pick a lot. It might be prone to dying just because of the nature of if Ahri hits 6 first, able to just kind of jump in and deal some damage. But nonetheless, I'm a fan of this Veigar pick. I'm looking to see what Matt can do on a champion that isn't Silas. We're gonna take a short break before we get back onto the Rift for game number 3 between TDR and Iconic Severance. Winner takes all, making the spot into the playoffs. The loser will go home with their season ending tonight. So big game, a lot on the line. We'll be right back for game number 3.
Everybody panic! Hold on! About to say something really cool. 3, 41, 9, and lift off! No one dies screaming without me. I feel like I forgot to shoot something. You're starting to bore me. She's such a loser, always ready to cry. Da-da-da-da. Ah, come on. What's the worst that could happen?
And we are back onto the Rift for the winner takes all game 3, the last regular season game. Wait, the last game of the regular season for the CCS. A little bit of action going on here as TDR looks for another invade. So I will kind of delay the rosters coming through, but on the red side for game number 3, Iconic Severance, Yowie in the top lane on the Mundo, Hunter Wolf Steel on Shyvana in the jungle, Silver Smite coming in on the Ahri in the mid lane, and Farachi and Andromeda rounding out the bottom lane with the Xayah and the Leona.
And for Team Death Realm, in possibly their last game of the season, they're hoping it's not. They've got Nemesis in the top lane on Ornn, Bipolar. Second chance here in game 3 on the Trundle will be Matt with the Vigar, Rusher with the Sivir, and Mr. Potate has the Nautilus as well. So Team Death Realm coming through with a lot of the same pieces that they brought in the first game with the Ornn as well as the Trundle and the Nautilus too, but are forced to onto some different things in these carry roles of the mid and bot. But like you had already brought up, right, Chains, I'm a huge fan of this Vigar pick. I'm really a huge fan of picking these scaling compositions in the last game of a series in general, because if you get behind in the early game, when it is this do or die situation, you never want to put yourself in a spot where you feel like it's impossible to win the game. You know, last week we saw in the LCS, we saw Evil Geniuses against Team Liquid Game 5. They pick Renekton in Italy. They get ahead early, but then once they start to fall behind, it's just, you know, you really just don't have any options. And I won't say, I don't think it's that extreme for Iconic. Both teams do have some scaling elements for sure, but I would say overall, the advantage does go.
Level 2 for TDR. Big trade onto Farachi there, having to burn the heal.
Yeah, and no Ignite used either from Mr. Potate. So, I mean, just to finish what I say, I mean, it is a little bit of an advantage, I think, going into the late game for TDR, so they always do have that to fall back on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point, and especially, you know, with the Sivir, who does definitely scale, and especially with a Sivir who looks to be going the crypt build, you can see that fleet footwork
Right.
As the rune for Rusher instead of the, you know, Dark Harvest that we usually see from Lethality Sivir. It's just Sivir's gonna scale very, very well too. You know, with those with the ricochets, being able to just kind of hit everyone on the team at the same time with these crits is going to be very, very impactful, and I think it's definitely another bright spot of this TDR scaling roster.
Yeah, and there was definitely a certain point in the game. I mean, you know, when I first started, well, a little bit after I first started playing, actually, but I think, you know, probably, you know, season 5, I want to say, maybe season 6, where Sivir was sort of the premier scaling option, but Mr. Potate is going to get found out, but can just dredgelight himself to safety, so they do know where Hunter Wolfsteal is at this moment, and both junglers are just going for that full clear out. You know, I talked about that in the Champions League, how that is really what Shyvana wants, so a little bit of an advantage probably going over to her so far, as Trundle would like to try to make something happen early. But with that being said, we do see Yowie allowing himself to get shoved in the early game. Dive did not go too well last game for Team Death Realm, so I don't think they're going to try another one of those here, especially against Mundo, who's a little bit harder to kill. Mr. Potate has been eating some pretty substantial damage here in this early lane, just with the aggressive positioning that he's been showcasing so far.
Yeah, this is kind of just what you expect here from the Nautilus. You want to get in, you want to be in the face of the enemy, and even, you know, you like to see that on Leona as well here. We see junglers are going to be on opposing sides of the map for this for the time being, with Hunter Wolf still being on that top side and Bipolar being on the bottom side. But Dragon spawning in 10 seconds. Definitely, we like to see Shyvana getting a lot of those early dragons just due to the passive where she deals bonus damage to dragons. But for the time being, not going to see that yet, as still have a while to go before Hunter makes his way back down into this bottom side.
Yeah, and we already talked about the build that is probably going to come through for Sivir here based on the rune choice, but with the lethal tempo from Xayah here from Farachi too, not Not what I expected, just because in pro pay in particular, we all are seeing a ton of this airy lethality on Zaya, but it doesn't have the same scaling that, again, something like a crit build does bring. So, hook coming through.
Oh, Andromeda taking very, very low. Ignite is available for Mr. Pate, but they opt to not go any further for it. And yeah, I mean, overall, the bot lane for TDR seems to be getting the better of this matchup for the time being. I mean, the CS is relatively even, but Farachi does have a small advantage there.
And I also, I wonder about Andromeda playing the Leona in particular, because earlier we touched on her champion pool, and it did primarily consist of these shielding, of these kind of healing champions. So something like the Leona is a very, very different playstyle, and I wonder how much Andromeda's comfort will come into play, especially as we kind of get into these team fight engage scenarios where Leona's Solar Flare and just her engage, generally speaking, is going to be a really critical piece for Iconic. But as of now, it is TDR taking advantage of the push that they were able to generate bot, taking advantage of the early supremacy that this Trundle brings in, at least in the fighting scenarios, as we do see Shyvana is up on farm, but Yowie here is going to start to get difficult for Nemesis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, once the later in the game Mundo gets, the more powerful he actually becomes. And that's not to say that the Mundo early game isn't powerful, but able to buy up these items, get the Bomby Cinder in the inventory. We see Nemesis rocking with the tier, so gonna build up that Fimble Winter. I don't know if that's what you're actually supposed to build, but Silver going for it here with the Flash Charm. Nice job there by Matt, dodging out of the rest of that damage with the flash of his own. Either way, you love to see that Silver's trying to go for plays like this in a game 3 where it's all on the line.
Yeah, and I think you're okay if you're Silver Smite trading the flashes there too, because if Ahri does not have ultimate, she isn't going to be as mobile. But if she has the Spirit Rush up, she's just able to get herself to safety pretty easily, as we saw showcased by Silver Smite last game. On the other hand, for Matt, you are very, very vulnerable with this Vigar without flash. You have the cage available, but once that cooldown is used.
Oh, fighting the bot lane here. Andromeda just taking a lot of damage here. Hunter Wolfsteal could be in trouble. We'll have to use the ultimate, but the one horn is sounded, and two-man knockup comes through. Matt is not here though, crucially. So it's a 3v2 in favor of Iconic, and they're on to the Herald. Still have 2 ultimates for them as Matt's running in with the Predator. Gonna get charmed up immediately. Those knockup comes through onto Silver Smite, and Silver Smite will go down from that ultimate from Vigar. Hunter Wolfsteal is very low as well, but it's gonna flash forward and find Matt on the backside of the play, and I believe that Iconic will be able to finish out this Rift Herald.
And we questioned earlier on in the series the ability of Silver Smite to communicate with teammates, given that he is so new to this squad, just playing here as an Issa, but really have put on a show here in the second game and the third game so far as well, making these rotations with teammates honestly better at times with TDR. Now, I will say, in Matt's defense there, I think that is his team's fault. He was forced to go back to the base with no teleport available because of how low he was chunked after that flash forward trade from Silver Smite in the mid lane. So there just needs to be, I'm not sure if someone isn't talking or if someone is just not listening, but there need to be some adjustments made in the way that TDR is rotating around the map during this game. And meanwhile, Shyvana's got level 7 and she is here in the bot lane, does have not have the ultimate available yet, but will have the Rift Herald, which looks like what they're gonna drop here.
Matt getting a nice chug back onto Silver Smite, but Silver Smite does have the ultimate. Ignite's coming up soon, but we're fighting in this bottom lane. Solar Flare is not going to find the stun to anyone, but the Zenith Blade is going in under the tower. Dragon time as Hunter Wolfsteal is going to jump onto Mr. Potato. Will flash away, but the Ignite's taking down. I don't think it's enough damage, though, as everyone gets out with their lives in this bottom lane. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The tower, there are no minions. Oh, super low health bars on both of the Iconic bot laners. If someone was there, it would have been a free pickup on this double kill, but nonetheless, no casualties despite all of the fighting around the map.
Yeah, and TDR does get the push into the mid lane, so they will pick up plating here. But overall, just like I mentioned earlier, Silver Smite, yes, he burned the flash to get that good trade onto Matt, which really ended up benefiting them hugely, just in and of itself. But you can see, his Nemesis is going to ult here, but doesn't have the damage, and this is the problem in this matchup. I mean, we can get to that next, but when the Spirit Rush is available for Ahri, it doesn't matter if you gank her, it doesn't matter if you flash forward and pillar, because she has 3 dashes, she's just going to get away from you, and this Mundo is starting to become really annoying for Nemesis, who will never, or, will become really tanky, just like Mundo, but will not be able to do as much damage in the matchup. So Yowie should pretty much own this one from this point forward. And in game 1, we criticized Yowie for not being able to take advantage of the split push presence. We'll see if that changes here in this crucial game 3.
Yeah, and this is kind of the downfall of picking your top laner so early in the draft. We talked about it in the draft for game number 2, but wanting to keep that counter pick for your top laner is so crucial. And with TDR picking Ornn early for Nemesis, like in the first rotation, it gives Iconic a free counter pick in that lane, plus a free counter pick in another lane because you have red buff. I mean, because you're on red side. So 2 free counter picks given away in the draft is usually not ideal.
No, it's not ideal at all. And another thing to think about is not only as this dragon looks like it probably will be picked up, probably not going to see a steal come through here. It would just be a suicide mission, but teleport coming through into the top side, and not only is this Ornn going to start to struggle to answer Dr. Mundo, but who else are you going to put there, right? I mean, Matt is just going to get absolutely run down, especially when you even consider the spell shield capabilities. But Andromeda looks like might be looking for the engage with Hunter here.
Oh, we're gonna go Dragon as Mr. Potato is in trouble. There's not the flash available, trying to Spider-Man his way out of there, but there is no Spider-Manning out of that situation. And Mr. Potato is gonna go down, and Farachi is gonna find the kill. Oh no, Rusher.
Yeah, Rusher is going to be stuck under the turret, but he does have Bipolar as well, so we'll see if they try to go for this dive. It looks like they are posturing for it, but once they see Bipolar decide not to do so, Hunter Wolfsteal is going to be exhausted from that ultimate for a little bit.
Gosh, Bipolar is just running into 3 members of Featherstorm is enough to find the damage there, but a nice stun in coming through onto Farachi. Oh, did not burn the ultimate, and a huge Blade Caller is going to find the stun onto 2 members. Oh, Andromeda going back in with the Zenith Blade. Matt is going to find the kill, but we'll try to flash out to safety. Not going to find anything there as Rusher will get out with their life, but Matt falls again.
Yeah, and just to pick up the kill on the Leona, which while this Vygar does want to pick up those resources and is a very good target for the gold, overall, it's just not, just a really bad fight for TDR, both in terms of the swing of gold, the swing of kills. Well, not even swing, really, just kind of the deepening of that lead. So they do find themselves in, honestly, a great position here. They are a little bit up in gold, and I think, we praise the scaling coming through from TDR. They are certainly not out of this, but it's going to be a long time until Rusher, in particular, is going to be effectively able to put out damage in these fights as the Sivir. You really have to get to that multiple crit item point for the W to start getting those crit bounces in the team fights, which is where I think the majority of Sivir's late game damage comes from. So, I mean, again, just, like last game for TDR, I had said, you got to sit back, you got to do a little bit of scaling. And then they proceeded to, get a couple of picks right away. So maybe that's what they'll be able to do here, too. But these champions for Iconic, they're just really difficult to kill. We've seen Silver Smite getting away over and over again with those dashes on Ahri. We already talked about how Xayah, Featherstorm helps her to stay alive, and then Mundo just so awful. So
ooh, Matt and Silver Smite going at it here. Does the ultimate depth charge will force Silver Smite to go golden as Hunter Wolfsteal goes in. Matt trying to flash, or going forward, just not gonna go down. A little bit of a strange play there. Andromeda's gonna flash forward, get the stun onto Mr. Potato. And now Mr. Potato is in trouble. Farachi is here for good measures. The Ornhorn is sounded. Hunter will go down as the Forge God is on speed dial.
Gonna go in.
We'll see. Nemesis.
Yeah.
Oh, a two-man knockup is beautiful there, but it just doesn't look like they have any follow-up at all. As, oh no, Rusher caught under the tower against the Mundo. I mean, Yoi could just certainly just run after him. I mean, has the ultimate available as well. But opts to not.
Playing it pretty conservative. I mean, I think just on some level, it makes sense to play it conservative there just because he knows that Rusher is going to be forced back to the base. Now Mundo can push in the wave, pick up the turret. Team is picking up the turret in the mid lane as well. That will be the first one going down. Mundo likely to grab another, and that will start to balloon the gold lead a little bit for Iconic, who just, you know, I mean, I kind of hate to say it because I feel like it's kind of a diss on Iconic, but people were saying last week when they beat Horizon, you know, this team, they take it to 3 games almost every single time, and they're like cockroaches, baby. They just won't die. And not only are they not dead, they're really thriving in this game so far. I think that if you're Iconic, you're really happy with how things have played out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in your comfort zone right now, right? I mean, you are playing in game 3. You are very used to playing in game 3, as everyone knows, hey, this is this team that brings you to game 3. And I think if you're TDR, you're sweating right now. You know, yeah, you have the scaling composition, but you're down 3.5k against the team that's known for, oh my gosh, beautiful by Matt there. With the damage coming through, will get the one shot onto Silver Smite, but Yoi is running down Matt. Matt really has nowhere to go. Oh, the pillar is nice, but Yoi flashes forward over and will find the kill there. But look at this. Okay. 2 kills coming back in favor of TDR, as well as the Herald going to be spawned mid, and this tower should fall in the mid lane. That's going to be some gold there, and with that pressure in the mid lane, it should be also the Dragon.
Yeah, finally Matt coming up absolutely clutch for his team. Coming into this match, he's the captain of the team. He's the leader of this team. This is a squad that has definitely performed below expectations of the majority of CCS fans, and this is really their chance to get to the next stage and show everybody that they are capable of winning games against some of these top half teams. And now with the Dragon gonna go down,
Rusher!
There's still gonna be a fight here.
Oh no, Rusher is gonna meet Yoi face to face, but you have to just back up, I think, if you're TDR in this lane. Orenhorn is called, knockups onto 3, but the Featherstorm has been utilized. Mr. Potato is gonna go down. Silver Smite looking for the charm, but not gonna find the mark with the Spirit Rush coming in as Matt turns around, presses R, and explodes the enemy mid laner. Hunter is a little bit caught off on the other side of the fight here, but Andromeda is just running forward as TDR is able to get out, just trading their support for their mid laner, for the other team's mid laner. And Hunter now going on to Nemesis as they're trying to kite back as much as they can. Hunter's not at the ultimate yet, but the Fury is stacking up, and everyone is going to get out for the time being. But a 1-for-1 will definitely favor TDR in this situation.
It will favor TDR, but I will say that this decision by Iconic to push them really far back into the lane with that bot lane turret being down is a really intelligent one. It's allowed them to take away the jungle of TDR, deny some gold from the enemy team, and then even just some of the vision that we've seen them set down here as well allows them to set up for potentially some future picks. And one of the criticisms I had of Team Death Realm last game was that they picked Trundle, they put him top lane, and he really had no one to ult whatsoever. Now, granted, Mundo is obviously sort of a health first kind of focused champion, but of course is going to pick up tons of resist, already having the Thornmail Frostfire Gauntlet and Plated Steel Cap available. So, it's not going to make the Mundo easy to take down when the Subjugate is dropped onto him, but at least Bipolar will be able to benefit from that, whereas last game when it was in the hands of Nemesis, that just really wasn't the case. So, happy to actually see the Trundle capable of making a difference in this team fight, as we are going to see Yoi getting run down. Speaking of Trundle,
here we go. Subjugate is going to be popped onto Yoi. They don't have any healing reduction though, so I don't know if they have the damage to take down this Mundo, but Match is going to flash forward and just bring down the destruction onto this Mundo, get another kill for himself here. And you can already see, I want to talk about the mid lane itemization. Hold on, I can't yet because we're getting more fighting as Nemesis has to run here. Going to get the Ornhorn knockup onto 1. Silver Smite is running down, does have the Spirit Rush. Oh, a nice usage. Oh, what?
Yeah, that was weird. Okay, I think that that's bugged, honestly. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was also feeling like I was hitting W on Ornn. Maybe they did, maybe they took that away. I mean, just totally tell me I'm an idiot in the Twitch chat or whatever, if that's the case. But either way, I think he probably would have died for Nemesis there. So it is traded 1-for-1, but with this side of the map being controlled by Iconic, they do start up the Baron. They won't be able to finish it, though. And Matt is really putting the team on his back right now on Vygar. I didn't think that ultimate was going to have enough damage to take down Yowie, but it did. Just doing Vygar things, and he's only going to get more annoying to deal with as the game goes later and later. Not to mention Rusher as well, right, Chains, who hasn't had a huge impact so far, but look at that, 1-0-3. At least he hasn't died. As long as, if he can keep that consistent, it's going to be hard for Iconic to win if they never kill Sivir, but Farachi never has died either, so both of these AD carries playing pretty well in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Both AD carries very, 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 very strong in this situation. We're seeing that, and I can go back to talking about itemization here. With mid laners, you can see that Silver Smite opted for the Leandri's Ahri build, which is something that you don't really see too often anymore. A lot of it's either Ludens or Everfrost. And I talked about it in the champion select, is that Silver Smite went for the Everfrost in game number 1. Yeah,
Yep.
I believe it was game number 1. And also 2, actually, now that I think about it.
Got it. Yeah, that's
But
right.
But yeah, definitely a little bit of an adaptation on the build here, and I do enjoy this, especially just because Silver Smite is the only source of magic damage on their team, and I definitely like you need to be burning through these high health targets. But we're gonna get a fight here as the teleport's coming in. Hunter Wolf, Steel Ghost Dragon, and we'll see what each team has here. Ornhorn is down to get a knockups onto 3, and now Hunter Wolf Steel is the target, gonna flash out to safety as Yowie has to run as well. Andromeda trying to frontline with Yowie and trying to find some sort of poke with Farachi, but it looks like TDR just has full control. Farachi running in, gonna get caught in the cage as Fellstorm comes down. This should be the play where they opt to get him mad. He's getting jumped on by Yowie though, and they cannot kill Farachi yet. As finally Farachi will go down, but it's a 1-for-1 in the play so far. Andromeda taking very, very low as Nemesis, as well as Rusher's gonna find the kill over the wall, but Rusher's in a really bad spot right now as Silver Smite is gonna look for Rusher, dashing over the wall, dodges out of the charm, but it does not matter as a double kill comes here for Hunter Wolf Steel, and that is a 3-for-2 in favor of Iconic. And they just kind of got caught in a bad situation.
Yeah, it just kind of seemed to me like TDR, they were sort of, they were kind of around the pit. They were in the middle of that bot side river in a way that Iconic was able to end up wrapping around on them from both sides. And then, Yowie just showing how much of a problem he can start to be with Dr. Mundo, because Matt just has, once the cage is dropped from Matt, there's really nothing that he can do in that situation, trying to really just run back towards the team and get as much damage down as he could before he's inevitably ends up dying to the Mundo. So they're going to need to find some kind of answer for this Mundo running into the back line. And I think that overall, if you're Team Deathrealm, you want to stick together as 5 a little bit more than they were able to in that particular fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially because you had control in the bot lane river.
Yep.
You want to just let the opponent come to you, right? You have the control. You can fight on your terms, and you can poke them out as they try to walk through the specific choke points. So it's definitely a little bit strange to see that fight go as poorly as it did for TDR. But credit to Iconic for being able to play it well. Credit to Yowie for being able to get right in onto Matt and just cause havoc in the backline and take down the one of the main damage dealers of the TDR squad. But we're gonna see another fight here. It looks like as Hunter Wolf Steel does have the dragon available. Charm goes a bit wide, but nonetheless, 2 members of Iconic are TDR are bot lane. So Iconic has numbers advantage.
Yep, Matt does have teleport. He is going to teleport in here, but it has already been the Baron started. Not going down super fast, though.
Matt's gonna get hit with the solar flare and just gonna go down absolutely one-shotted, but look at Rusher on the backside doing some damage as now they're trying to jump onto him, flashing over the wall to safety as Bipolar is 2v1ing on the other side of the fight and gonna win with the help of Rusher coming through clutch. A double kill for the Rusher on the Silver. Silver Smite is continuing forward. Trauma's going to go a little bit wide, but the horn is sounded, and Bipolar is on a killing spree. Yoey, the last member alive as the pings come down. TDR wants to push and get these towers back.
And I haven't seen an online Sivir in a very, very long time, right, Chain? So it is really fun to see that from Rusher. It looked like the fight was going so poorly for TDR to begin with, but two things to keep in mind. First of all, it's a 4v5 because Nemesis didn't have teleport, was stuck on the bot side answering that wave. And then on top of that, it seemed like everybody forgot about Rusher from Iconic, who was able to stay alive, sitting on the back line, and then when he got over to the other side by the blue buff, just putting out an amount of damage that starts to get really, really surprising, which I feel like that's always kind of how it is for this Sivir once she can pick up multiple crit items, is you don't really see it coming because it's not that upfront sort of burst damage. It's just like all of a sudden when you're able to get those like, you know, 3 to 4 boomerang, or sorry, bouncing, what, I can't remember what it's called. Anyways,
Ricochet.
W auto attacks off, you know, that damage just starts to add up a little bit quicker than you would expect. So nice job by Rusher keeping the team alive there, preventing the Baron, and we're just seeing more fights here in the jungle as Silver Smite.
Oh,
he's
Matt!
gone.
Absolutely one-shotting Silver Smite with the help of Rusher to finish it off with that last 1 HP there, but now we're going to get a fight coming through as the box is crucial. Andromeda is going to go down as Bipolar goes on a rampage, and they are continuing. TDR is upset. Hunter has to flash away, but the dredge line from max range. Mr. Potate is angry, and that's going to be 3-4-0 in favor of TDR, and they turn their sights to the Baron.
And when it matters, Silver Smite getting caught out by Matt, who has just a wonderful cage there to control the space in their jungle. And now members are low, but this Baron is getting dropped really quickly, and not really sure what Yoey is hoping to do here. Maybe just get the miracle cleaver steal, but TDR aren't going to make the same mistake twice, and they take down Hunter Wolfsteal before, crucially, starting the Baron, and that one will get taken. And just like that, it seemed like things were, you know, getting pretty dire here for TDR. But now they have the gold lead. It looks like it's about, you know, 2.2K. So not huge by any means, but with Rusher coming online now, as with the Sivir, as well as this Vigar, who has been online for a long time, but will continue to get stronger and stronger. You know, the pieces are in place here for Team Deathrealm to be able to win this game and ultimately this match.
Yeah, the pieces are in place indeed, and I mean, you've talked about it a lot. Also, just get your Vigar and your Sivir online, and as long as you don't bleed out too much early, you know, you guys have this. If you're TDR has the scaling advantage, and now this 5th dragon of the game has spawned. And it is the Mountain, 2-2 for both of these teams. We're going to get another fight comes through. Ward God is coming in as Hunter goes Dragon in the backside of the fight. Matt is trying to run for the hills as Hunter's going to go golden, but Silver goes in, cannot find the execute onto Matt as Matt lives with 1 HP, but Silver will go down, and it's a 1-for-1 so far. Support for mid laner in favor of TDR as Matt does it to teleport, and he is unleashed. We'll see as Dragon is taken very low. Hunter is very low as well here. As TDR Bipolar comes through, Matt is back in the game, baby. He's gonna find 2 kills, and Hunter needs to go as he does get the secure on the Dragon, but for his life and the rest of the teams, Yoey, the last member standing, as the ping's coming through. TDR wants to push bot lane, and they're wearing purple.
Yeah, they do have the Baron buff left up here for a while, so will allow them to push a little bit faster. I'm trying to look. It looks like, yeah, they have more than a quarter of the buff left. But with that being said, Silver Smite is back up now, Andromeda back in 10 seconds. So honestly, even, I mean, maybe going for the 1 turret here, but going for the inhibitor is going to be really risky, I think. However, they are taking it down really quickly, I guess. What am I saying? They've got enough AD and AP built up at this point that they can make it happen. And, you know, Mr. Potate is the one member of Team Deathrealm to die in that fight, but I do want to shout him out. Just he was able to use the ultimate onto Farachi to force forced the Zaya out of the fight and didn't really have an impact whatsoever. And then after that was honestly like zoning, I think it was 3 members of Iconic away. So Nautilus definitely putting in work, showing us why it was worth that first pickup on the blue side for Team Death Realm. And so the gold lead, it is sitting out of the 3.1, so didn't explode necessarily based off that, but we can kind of see as these fights play out how it starts to slant even further to the side of Team Death Realm as Hunter Wolfsteal and Yoey going into the backline trying to get the kill on that Vygar, not able to do so. And Matt, I don't know if he had the stopwatch in that last fight. I didn't catch that, but he certainly does now. And once that's in Azonia's hourglass as well, this Vygar just becomes really, really impossible to run down.
Oh, a huge hook on to Farachi as the depth charge comes in. Ornhorn sounded as there is no ultimates for Farachi left. Does have both summoner spells, but Solar Flare will not find any targets from Andromeda. And TDR set their sights onto this top lane tier 2, the last tower outside of the Iconic base.
And as they push in here, like, for Farachi, I would say, honestly, in some ways, the Featherstorm is the more important cooldown. Out of the 3, it's the shorter one. But without that, he has really little ability to survive through something like the Ornn ult, through something like the depth charge, as well as the ultimate coming through from the Nautilus as well. So I think TDR is going to be happy to continue controlling the space.
Oh my gosh, Hunter's going into the dragon form, into the middle of 5, going to go golden for the time being, but the depth charge is going to knock up Farachi into the backlines. We go as Andromeda and Yoey are dealing damage, trying to find a mark, but it doesn't look like they can here as Rusher's going to go on a rampage, but look at Hunter on the flank with the giant E in dragon form. TDR is going to have to run for the hills as Mr. Potate, the last member standing, will go down, and Iconic turns it around.
An Iconic with a huge team fight, and I honestly felt like Hunter Wolfsteal, I thought he was just inting that when he first went in, dropping so low, but able to keep himself alive with the Zhonya's Hourglass that has been built up. And then after that, fight's still looking good for TDR until Hunter Wolfsteal with that E in the dragon form, like you said, Raichain's just absolutely obliterating members from TDR, and just like that, this series won't go away. And Iconic, again, I'll say it again, they just won't die. They're a team that pushes you to your limit, whether you are one of the bottom teams in Thursday, or whether or not you're a top half team like Horizon. So hats off to this team for staying competitive, and once again we've seen a gold swing now over to Iconic this time.
Yeah, and this dragon spawning in 50 seconds. It is going to be a potential soul for Iconic if they're able to pick up the dragon. And you can already see TDR is walking in, trying to set up control and vision in this bottom side river, because this is going to be the fight that could turn the game entirely. If Iconic can get the soul, it's hard. It's really hard.
No, absolutely. I mean, imagining an additional shield on this Mundo who has hit level 16 is, difficult, really difficult to kill. It does not sound, it doesn't sound good, I'll say, for TDR. With that said, they are controlling this river area right now, but Iconic, they don't have to fight this if they don't want. It would just be the third one, but they are.
Here we go as Ornhorn is being called here. Hunter Wolfsteal is going dragon in as the dragon will get secured by Bipolar, but the fight ensuing after Yoey diving into the backlines in the middle of 4 members. This should just go down here, as yes, the shutdown goes through to Bipolar, and now this fight looks very good for TDR. Farachi's gonna burn the ultimate, but 3-man knockup from Nemesis is huge. Look at the Blade Caller trying to find 2 kills on the backside, but Rusher is standing in the front, ready to fight, throwing boomerangs. It's a 2-for-2 so far, but the dragon is over to TDR.
Dragon is over, and even though Nemesis does go down in the end, what a huge knockup there, getting 3 members, including Farachi, who didn't end up going down at the end of the team fight, but Rusher and Matt still alive as well. So Baron has spawned. It is going to be Iconic rushing over onto that side of the map, maybe trying to set up some sort of pick here, because I don't think that they would I don't really think that they would want to start it as they move a little bit more forward. They are going to go towards the Baron, so they might start it up here. No, they won't. I'm just going back and forth and back and forth. But so for Iconic doing well in that team fight, but as long as Rusher and Matt can stay alive, there's always a chance for TDR to come back in these fights. And stopwatch was not used on the part of Matt. It looks like it did end up getting, I think it got used by Rusher. Either it got used or he just built it up into the Guardian Angel already. So there are some safety nets for TDR, and as they move over toward this Baron, they could honestly start it and burn it down really quickly. But I guess considering what happened in game 1, they might be a little wary of that decision still.
Definitely don't want to coin flip a Baron at this stage in the game.
Yeah,
and TDR, they have the scaling, but
either team, but Hunter Wolfsteel has literally stolen the Baron from them 2 games ago, so I just think they're not gonna take that risk. But Andromeda walking really close and just
sitting
look
in
at
the
all
bush.
these wards from TDR. They do have a lot of coverage, but unfortunately, if no one walks close enough to that bush, there's really not much they can do to punish other than kind of force, which has not gone well for them in the past. So we do see Yowie onto the bot side, has the teleport in order to join, but won't be the first one here as Nemesis is already there. And it's going to be a long time until that Mundo actually has any pressure in the bot side. So because of that, they are just going to start the teleport. I think if you're TDR, like, yeah, you could go for the finish. You could also just try to go for burning the TP.
Oh, here we go. Hunter going in for the kill, and he will get the Baron steal away. Hunter, for the second time in this series, going to find the Baron steal, and now Yowie teleporting in the middle of 5 members will just go down. But nonetheless, the Baron is stolen away by Hunter, and, honestly saves the game.
Yeah, he does, saves the game, absolutely. It wasn't able to win them the game in game 1, but it could do so here in game 2, not right off the back of it, but will allow them to stay in the game for a bit longer. But there are 2 members down. Yowie really having no reason to need to run in on that fight. I guess was pretty much just trapped after the teleport, as that is going to be the shield burn here from Silver Smite. Pricing an inhibitor.
Farachi has to flash and use the ultimate to try to get away, but Rusher's flashing in, trying to find the damage, but Farachi is going to take down Mr. Potato on the backside. And a trade of support. Yeah, I mean, this could be an end angle. They're looking for it. Former as strong as the knockup's going to go through the flash forward onto Silver Spiders. 1 tower will fall. The second one is down as well as the Nexus is open. Hunter is trying to get into the backline onto Mad, but Mad is flashing away to safety. The Nexus is 1 HP, and they both go golden. Do they have enough? Yes, they do, as Rusher takes it off the GA.
And they leave it down to the last second. They leave it down to the finest of margins in classic style. But Team Death Realm have punched their ticket to the quarterfinals. It of course takes 3 games, but they take down Iconic Severance, end their season, and we're going to see them again at least one more time next week.
Oh my goodness, the final auto coming off of the GA proc from Rusher was what it took. And wow, I mean, what a crazy series here. The team that was known as the cockroaches of the CCS end up falling, and a super crazy performance by TDR. They're going to be heading into the playoffs. They're going to be feeling good about themselves, taking Iconic down in their home territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just trying to look here at some of these playoff scenarios that we have, and I think I don't want to get this. I don't want to get this. 13-9. So they are going to finish 13-9. So they are going to finish just I think they're going to finish in front of Horizon. I think TDR has 3rd seed. People can definitely correct me if I am wrong on that one, but I'm not sure if they're above Shadows. Never mind. I'm trolling. I have no idea what I'm talking. Yeah. I think no, they're not above Shadows. I don't know what I'm freaking saying. All right, they're 4th seed. They're 4th seed, I think. Who's in the chat? 4th seed. Somebody said. Okay.
Seed.
All right, I trust Glacial. He's smarter than me.
Yeah, Glacial knows the vibes for sure, but nonetheless, I mean, TDR advances into the playoffs. Iconics playoff hopes are gone. Definitely shout out to them for a great season. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with an interview with the winning team support, Mr. Potate. So don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss it.
Everybody, panic!
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Mr. Pate to support from the winning team Death Realm. Mr. Pate, thank you for joining us and congratulations.
What's up, kids? How are you? Hey, we won. Not even close, man. Only a flash in Azonia.
Exactly. And I just want to ask you to start things off, how did you feel about that series?
Okay. For the fourth game, we practice Thursday. No, Monday. But we lose 3 of the 4 games. And when we stop practicing together, we won all the matches we do. But not against Goldfish Gaming. But yeah. So we just stopped practicing together and we won.
Definitely an interesting strategy there, but you heard it here first. If you want to win in 5v5 competitive League of Legends, all you got to do is not play with each other. But you know, thinking about the drafts in this series, game 2 we had kind of the weird situation where we had to do the redraft. We had to do the draft over because of that band combination that was picked up by Iconic. How much do you think that helped Iconic to have that second run through of the draft, given that their first draft in game 2, me and Rychains at least felt like it really was not good?
With the first draft, we should win that game. Not the bot lane because Renata is a hard counter to Nautilus, but we should win the second draft. But after the draft, after the Renata Xinzao things, yeah, they were better because we int a little bit. But yeah, after we just take off the game 3 and win.
And you talked about inting a little bit, and I just want to ask you about um,
I'm afraid.
kind of the aggressive play style that we saw you showcase, but really the team as a whole during this series. So for you, Mr. Patate, playing something like the Nautilus, where you're really depending on your team to follow your engage, how much trust you have in your team to follow up when you're the one starting the fights?
Because if they don't follow me, I die, and it's gonna be 4 versus 5. So they don't have the choice to follow my call there. If I say I hook someone, we need to go.
Okay,
It's a free pick.
so you hook and they kind of follow, and I'm wondering too, like in terms of like the shot calling or sort of the communication, are you the one kind of picking a lot of these engages and fights, or who's kind of the central point of communication and speaking with each other on this team?
We're all talking, but me, mid, and top lane talk more than yeah. We all talk in the game, so there's no shot caller.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense for sure. And um I do have to ask you about both in game 1 as well in game 3. The Baron was stolen away by Hunter Wolfsteal, who
Hmm.
definitely showed off some smiting skills, and I'm just wondering, like, in those moments where the Baron gets stolen away, how do you stay strong mentally and kind of come back from those tough situations, because you did win both games where the Baron was stolen
But
away from you.
by the way, for the first game, we lost the Smite competition because Mordecai is our ultimate Trundle. So we
Oh,
lost that
fair.
Baron because of that. But they were in the Baron and they were all midlife. So we just going and won the fight. So if we can catch someone, 1 or 2 people, we won the fight and we smashed 3 others. So we're good because there are 3 Baron left. So they can do nothing with only 2 Barons on their team for the both game. Because at the third game, we killed Shivana and Mondo because Mondo teleported on Baron Pit. So we just take an advantage of that and win after they steal the Baron at the third game.
Absolutely. And, so you win this series, but more importantly than the win, you have qualified yourself into the playoffs for this first split for Team Death Realm in the CCS. So it looks like after all these results coming through, you will be against Horizon Gaming. How do you feel about that? That you could have been against Shadows, PGO, or Horizon. It does end up being Horizon. You know, is that like, are you happy with that? Is there a team you would have rather faced out of those 3?
I think we should beat them because without practicing, we win all the games. So if we're not practicing next week should be fine. We should win. So yeah, I don't think I'm
And
afraid to play.
No, sure. Yeah. So, and like for your team in general too, you definitely had moments of struggle throughout this season, especially early on, but you were able to turn it around. I wonder, do you feel like you were against easier teams in the second half of your split, or do you feel like the team has improved?
The teams improve, I guess, because we're just ending the first game we got, and after we say, okay, we need to focus if we want to do playoff, and so we just focus and stick together and have a good mental. Yeah, that's right. That's what I say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, wonderful. I mean, Mr. Potato, you said last time, I know Redacted is really good at these long form interviews. He kept you 20 minutes. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep you that long, but I do want to give you the opportunity to have the floor. If there's anything you want to say to CCS fans or TDR fans or maybe even Iconic fans, this is your chance. So what do you got for us?
Oh, okay. So be there next week for CTDR Smash Horizon Gaming. That's gonna be a fun game. And yeah, that's all I guess. We're just better, so we're gonna win.
Uh, well, you heard it here first. TDR, they already got it locked up. Maybe it'll go to, maybe they'll int here or there. They might lose a Baron or two, but in the end, they pull it together. So, Ride Chains, if you wanna do the honors, just send us out. I think people are ready for some nice sleep after a nice, good series like that.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us here for the Classic Championships series on Thursday. Team Deathrealm taking it in 3 games and pushing themselves into playoffs, into the 4th seed. Congratulations to them. Good job to Iconic on a solid season. But that's all for us here today. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week for some playoff action. See you guys later.